This story begins with a very ambiguous and difficult situation. It all started with the fact that the main character of this story, the Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, was drugged with banned substances, and he was also badly framed right on the eve of the hero's ascension to the throne. After a terrible incident, the main character wakes up before he has fully realized the gravity of the situation. The Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, has a splitting headache. He thinks that he probably just fell asleep yesterday. He also remembered that the hero's coronation should take place tomorrow. It turns out that the Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, was also accused of prohibited acts that were committed on one of the imperial concubines. This girl is named Meng. Now she is confused and does not know at all how to behave in front of the main character, because Meng was clearly against this connection. The Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, and millions of other people were dealt an insidious and malicious stab in the back. A trial is held over the main characters, at which the ministers decide that the submissive Emperor Yuanzai was very incompetent, and therefore Yuanzai can definitely be considered guilty of the atrocities committed by him. And his wife Meng definitely shouldn't be blamed for this whole thing. It's all Wu Yu, who definitely doesn't have any sense of shame. Meng tries to object something, but the girl is not allowed to say a single word. One of the subordinates just roughly drags Meng out of the main hall. Also, other important people in the Wu region, Wu Yu, are shouting at the top of their voices that the hero is definitely not worthy of being the one who should soon become the Emperor of Wu. What is happening is that yesterday's Crown Prince, who had respect, status, and loyal subordinates, today is no longer the Crown Prince, but a prisoner whose actions are condemned by people. No one honors the hero anymore and does not look up to him. Everything is definitely lost. The Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, is already imprisoned in a cage for criminals. Now he is outside in winter. He is wearing light clothes, so the Crown Prince is very cold, because snow is falling on him. There are bruises on his hands from wearing handcuffs for a long time. All the legs of the Crown Prince are covered in bloody abrasions, and disappointment and pain are on his face. Is the hero really going to die here? All these 10 years of cultivation have passed like one big day. The Crown Prince of Wu region, Wu Yu, would like to get another chance and correct his fate. The hero hopes that there is still justice in the world, and if the hero had a chance to be reborn, then all the offenders of the Crown Prince would be somewhere beyond redemption. After much thought, the hero falls exhausted on the wooden floor of the cage. He had obviously lost the creature because of the cold around him. Death and rebirth. This would literally mean victory over the powerful and monstrous forces of the Buddha. The Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, has special techniques that can help him change his fate for the better, where he will be able to change everything in the future. And the first stage of one of the techniques is the Vajra of the invincible body. After all, the entrance to immortality takes place with the help of the gate and the invincible Vajra body technique. This is power as well as control over the immortal path of gods and demons. The Crown Prince of the Wu region, Wu Yu, is also a great sage who is equal to heaven, and he himself is from the heavenly palace of the immortal kingdom, who directly defeated the Buddha from the heavenly kingdom of Buddha. The chronicles of the heavenly devourer, heavenly rules and commandments, and all the demons and gods are also at the disposal of the hero. The action takes place in the kingdom of Wu. There is a real commotion going on in the kingdom. No one understands how Wu Yu, the Crown Prince, could commit such an audacious and very dishonorable act. Due to the terrible actions of the hero, the reputation of the Wu kingdom, Wu Yu was questioned from the outside and was further destroyed by Wu Yu's actions. It is also reported that if the former emperor of the kingdom were alive, he would definitely be furious with all this. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince of the Wu kingdom, Wu Yu, is trying to recover. His head is splitting badly, and probably the dream he remembered now that his coronation will take place tomorrow, and then Wu Yu just went to sleep. They turn to Wu Yu again, because it's not clear how many times he needs to repeat what kind of mean and heartless mistake he made. Wu Yu opens his eyes and sees in front of him, it seems, a very familiar girl. It's concubine Meng. After all, this is one of Wu Yu's father's favorite concubines, but now the hero is not in a condition to take and remember her name. Wu Yu still has a splitting headache. Here the hero abruptly realizes that something is completely wrong. Why did concubine Meng appear so abruptly and suspiciously in Wu Yu's bed, just the day before his coronation? Here the mistress of the entire harem, the 11th concubine herself, once again turns to Wu Yu. She orders her subordinates to pour water on the hero so that he finally comes to his senses and realizes what he has done. After a bucket of water is poured on the hero, 11 the concubine asks the hero if he really has finally woken up. After the cold and encouraging water that turned out to be on the hero, He understands that this is all that is happening now. That is not a dream. Everything really happens in reality. Wu Yu also notices that bright phoenixes are carved on the bed on which he is now lying, which means that this is definitely not Wu Yu's bed. Wu Yu immediately recognizes this place. This place is the former Harmony Hall, where the former emperor of the Wu Kingdom rested with his concubines. Wu Yu also does not understand why there are so many ministers in the Harmony Hall now, because they have always been forbidden to enter this hall. Concubine Meng, who has also been on the bed next to Wu Yu all this time, realizes that something terrible is about to happen, so he does not want it to continue. Then, when the concubine continues to be angry at the concubine of Meng and Wu Yu, she immediately asks to take this vile and dissolute couple away from here. Immediately, the subordinates of the 11 concubines throw Wu Yu and concubine Meng off the bed of the former emperor, and forcibly lead them to another hall without delay. This is the Hall of the 20 Palace, the Kingdom of Wu. Right now, the other ministers of the Wu Kingdom are whispering about Crown Prince Wu Yu. They don't understand how the Crown Prince could do this. He's still too young and inexperienced. What a shame this is. The ministers went into full condemnation of Wu Yu's actions. 11 concubine sits on the throne hall of the 20 Palace. She can no longer bring out concubine Meng, so she orders the servants to come and take this shameless concubine Meng outside the hall gates. And for her rash and unjustified actions, concubine Meng should be executed immediately. Meng is in shock. She is trying to justify herself as best she can. She tells the 11th concubine that she is not at all guilty of this. She also does not know how it all happened. Meng also says that she is not to blame. The concubine is ready to swear 11 to the concubine. The head of the harem does not agree with this. She says that the already deceased Emperor Yuanzai was a very incompetent person, and therefore Yuanzai was to blame. But then one of the ministers who came to the 20 hall says that concubine Meng should not be executed in any case, because only Wu Yu is to blame, who does not have any sense of shame. Other emperors also agree with this opinion. Wu Yu is definitely not worthy of being the crown prince of the Wu Kingdom. He is not worthy of being the Eastern Wu Emperor. Then the 11th concubine directly addresses Wu Yu. She mentions to the hero that the former Emperor Yuanzai has only recently died, and his heir is already guilty of having been seen cheating with concubine Meng from the harem. Then Wu Yu is completely at a loss. Did he have some kind of connection with one of the concubines last night? He asks the ministers around him about it out loud. Wu Yu never fully realized the whole situation. Wu Yu is now thinking that he doesn't even know the name of this concubine. Then how could he just go to bed with this girl? Wu Yu has been sitting on the floor all this time, and when he tries to get to his feet, but then Wu Yu realizes that all his muscles are very weak, so he can't get up in any way. Wu Yu concludes that someone, most likely, someone took and poisoned the hero. Then one of the ministers who stands behind the hero says that he personally warned everyone earlier, and that Wu Yu shows negativity, ruthlessness, cruelty, and aggressiveness. And on top of everything else, Wu Yu does not respect and does not comply with the laws of the Wu Kingdom. Here Prince Rong appears, who also has many claims against Wu Yu. He says that the hero does not have the honor that an emperor should have, and all because he is obsessed with his martial arts. Wu Yu completely disagrees with these accusations. The crown prince also does not understand why this militarist will appear here. After all, if it wasn't for Wu Yu, a young warrior god of the 5th level of martial arts, then the Wu Kingdom would still be mocked by neighboring countries. And Commander Wu also decided to speak out, since there was such an opportunity. He reports that this concubine Meng had a low and dubious status, and if not for the previous Emperor Yuanzai, the hero Wu Yu would never have received the title of Crown Prince. And now, it seems that a man with the blood of mountains is really vulgar and dissolute. Besides, he is also low. Wu Yu is worse than an animal. Wu Yu sees that earlier the prince was robbed and flogged by the hero's own order, but Commander Wu was convicted and beheaded because of this. It all boils down to the fact that all these people who definitely don't like Wu Yu just framed the hero, but they are too stupid and do not have such great power to do such a thing, which means that there is definitely someone behind all of them who is stronger and more powerful. But what kind of person is this? Wu Yu decides to say out loud that he was definitely framed. These events happen too quickly and unexpectedly. Here the 11th concubine loses her temper. She does not understand at all how Wu Yu dares to argue. He is clearly not in a position to do this right now. Next, the head of the harem asks to summon the immortal Hao Tian to the 20 hall. Wu Yu is even more tense because of the words of the main concubine. The hero is also still unable to stand on his feet. He is only able to sit. Wu Yu recalls that the immortal Hao Tian is the protector of the Wu Kingdom, who was sent from heaven to save the suffering here. It turns out that he does not participate in a deadly war, but only can protect all creatures, but only except demons. He was sent here too. But Wu Yu does not have time to finish his thought, because he is knocked down by the loud conversation of the ministers. They are perplexed by the fact that even the immortals were also alarmed by all these events. One of the ministers says that he thinks that this immortal Hao Tian is more than 100 years old, but he looks like he is a young man. But this minister does not know what kind of immortal skills and abilities he actually possesses. Another minister reports that he is still immortal, then how can he even look like an ordinary person? It's just impossible. Here the ministers are strongly asked not to make noise, because the immortal Hao Tian is already approaching the 20 hall. Then the entrance gate swings open abruptly, and the immortal guardian appears on the threshold of the hall. Smoke appears around him. Only the figure of the immortal Hao Tian is visible. Then he slowly begins to step inside the 20 hall. In a moment, everyone can fully contemplate the immortal realm of Wu Hao Tian. Wu Yu immediately greets the great and immortal Hao Tian with a bow, and the hero asks him for justice towards him. Wu Yu thinks that the supreme and immortal Hao Tian is a person who values righteousness and honesty, so he has always been highly respected by Wu Yu's father, and it is the hero who is sure that he will definitely be able to achieve justice and righteousness for himself. 11. The concubine also worships the immortal Hao Tian. She also immediately asks him to punish the sinner Wu Yu. Then Hao Tian finally starts talking. The first thing he does is ask others about what happened today. After a moment, Hao Tian understands the current situation. He tells 11 concubines about it. Further, Hao Tian concludes that the kingdom should not be ruled by an overbearing and vulgar person who also violates the order of things. Wu Yu is shocked. He did not expect that the immortal Hao Tian would not stand on his side. It seems to the hero that the fact that he is being framed is very obvious. Hao Tian concludes that Wu Yu is a man of vulgar behavior, and Hao Tian is ordered by heaven to remove the hero from the throne. Also, the immortal of the Wu kingdom informs that from this day on, Wu Yu's training in martial arts has been discontinued, which only means that the hero will be immediately sent to the army. Wu Yu is completely at a loss. He doesn't even know how to answer. What? How could all this have happened? How could Hao Tian eliminate the hero without even asking Wu Yu a single question? Hao Tian shifts in places and begins to approach the hero. Then all the ministers present in the 20 hall fall at their feet in front of the immortal. He says that Hao Tian is really very smart and wise. Wu Yu also understands that he is invincible in the Wu realm, and only one immortal Hao Tian is capable of suppressing the hero. Wu Yu, it seems that all this was planned by them all, and Hao Tian is the one who is behind all this conspiracy. Hao Tian is smart and everyone in the Wu kingdom trusts and respects him, so he could have committed such a meanness, because no one in the kingdom would have believed that such a respected person Hao Tian is so mean and insidious in fact. He approaches Wu Yu and asks him if the hero has something to say in his defense. Then Wu Yu decides to finally say all the things that he really wants to talk about now. He, Wu Yu, lived his life without fear and regret, but today the immortal kingdoms of Wu simply want to destroy him. But the hero really has nothing to say except that. Wu Yu understands that he has now suffered a complete defeat. After all, Hao Tian, the immortal guardian who, it would seem, completely embodies the entire will of heaven, turned out to be nothing more than a vicious and ruthless person. Wu Yu's last hope for honesty and justice has completely failed. Then the hero abruptly and unexpectedly for all those gathered in the 20 hall begins to laugh loudly and fervently. The ministers don't understand how Wu Yu dares to behave like this. You can't be so impolite and reckless right in front of immortal Hao Tian. Hao Tian says that in this case there is nothing left but to give Wu Yu a powder for the destruction of the soul, which the immortal guardian had prepared in advance. Hao Tian decides that there is nothing left but to block Wu Yu's meridians and then completely destroy his cultivation. But Hao Tian himself is not going to give the powder to Wu Yu. He asks someone else to do it. Then the servants of the palace approach the hero, block his hands so that Wu Yu could not resist. Then they begin to pour the powder for the destruction of the soul directly into the mouth of the main character. Wu Yu only thinks that in this life he is the strongest mortal man in the country, but he has no way to compete with Hao Tian, an excellent immortal. And if it suddenly turns out that there is an afterlife in the world. But Wu Yu does not have time to think about all this to the end. The soul destruction powder has already appeared in the hero's mouth. A very strange and unpleasant feeling creeps through his body. The hero is very, very sorry that all these 10 years of hard work and effort were just taken and wasted. All the things for which Wu Yu tried and the goals that the hero wanted to achieve all these years. Now all of Wu Yu's dreams will not be able to come true and become a reality. The ministers continue to say that the hero should be immediately sent to the army, and the law must also be observed. Next, Wu Yu is put in a wooden cage and begins to be taken away from the palace. The hero is already starting outside the city gates of the kingdom of Wu. Here comes Princess Wu Wu, the sister of Crown Prince Wu Yu. The girl is now in great perplexity, she is almost crying. The princess does not understand how all this could have happened to her brother. Wu Yu does his best to calm down his loved one. He tells Sister Wu Wu that today the hero will not have time and will not be able to do anything else. Sister Wu Wu should understand that the heavens wish the hero all the bad things. They definitely intend to kill Wu Yu. Princess Wu Wu tells her brother that she doesn't fully understand all this, but she will continue to believe in Wu Yu. The hero tells Wu Wu's sister that everything will be fine. Wu Yu is a good and honest person who will definitely die with a clear conscience. It's just that this world is unfair and everyone here is against the main character. He doesn't have a single chance to protect himself in any way. Wu Yu says that in the next life he will again become the brother of such a wonderful sister as Princess Wu Wu. The sister is confused. She is not ready to lose her close and dear person in any way. Meanwhile, 2 hours have passed since all these events. The wooden cage with Wu Yu is being taken to the snowy mountains, where it is snowing right now. Snow and cold everywhere. Wu Yu thinks that he is very cold right now. Does the hero also think that he will die here now? He has already completely lost any hope that justice will prevail. But already almost broken and almost given up, there's no point in continuing to fight. He sincerely hates people who are involved in such a fate of the hero. Namely, Wu Yu hates Hao Tian and his concubine. These people were in collusion and conspired against Wu Yu. The hero also thinks that if fate takes pity on Wu Yu and it happens that one day he will be able to be reborn, then he will definitely make Wu Yu pay all his detractors. Wu Yu intends to take revenge for what happened to him. This revenge is sure to be very cruel, then only if Wu Yu is really given the opportunity to be reborn. Here the servants who are carrying the cage with the hero notice that, apparently, Wu Yu has died, and this needs to be urgently reported to the boss. Another person says he will report Wu Yu's death now, but the men clearly doubt that the hero is really dead. But one of the men explains that he thinks that Wu Yu is really already dead. What should they do then? Another person replies that since Wu Yu is dead, then you need to take his body somewhere far away and throw it somewhere in the mountains. And immediately begin to do this. They lift Wu Yu's exhausted body, carry it a short distance and throw it off the mountainside. Wu Yu's body starts falling down with great speed. Here, the hero's body reaches the ground, and he roughly lands in the cold snow. But then, unexpectedly, something rather strange begins to happen to Wu Yu's body. A small rod with golden-colored inscriptions, which Wu Yu wears around his neck, abruptly begins to grow into the hero's skin and also begins to glow brightly. Next, the rod begins to pulsate. It produces pulses that are large waves that spread further and further. This rod is a heavenly pillar, and it now appears for a reason. The heavenly pillar is getting bigger and bigger. All this is accompanied by loud noises, so Wu Yu is forced to cover his ears with his hands so that his ears will not suffer in any way. So, everything that is happening now is the first stage of the invincible body Vajra technique. Wu Yu understands this, but he also does not know the things that are happening next. What the hell is this? Then a huge creature appears, with eyes shining with lightning and a toothy mouth. The huge being immediately appears to Wu Yu. He says that he is a heavenly Buddha, that is, the great sage of the heavenly palace. The heavenly Buddha informs Wu Yu that if the hero has a destiny, then he should accept the teachings of the heavenly Buddha, and then rebel against heaven, and, in the end, destroy the entire kingdom of Wu. The chapter begins with a Thanksgiving scene by Hao Tian. 11. The concubine sits on her knees and sincerely thanks the immortal Hao Tian for today. Hao Tian replies that it is not worth such gratitude. After all, the 11th concubine is his disciple. Hao Tian further adds that for a cultivator, taking away the power of Crown Prince Wu Yu is a very simple and easy matter. The immortal guardian also says that tomorrow he intends to give an order that will allow Yu and Hao to immediately ascend to the throne. 11. The concubine is in the greatest delight. She once again thanks her immortal lord Hao Tian very much. The woman also announces that she will serve the immortal guardian until the very end of her days. Next, Hao Tian informs his student that his blood flows in Yu and Hao. Although this guy doesn't have any talent for martial arts, that's why Hao Tian can't let Yu and Hao live a gray, boring and dull life in any way. That is why Yu and Hao will fit the place of immortal emperor. 11. The concubine tells the immortal lord that Wu Yu is extremely experienced in such matters, and even though he was taken and sent to the army, he is still worried that Wu Yu may return to the kingdom of Wu. But Hao Tian asks his student not to worry about such trifles, because the immortal guardian has already instructed Wang King to finish off Wu Yu. Hao Tian is 100% sure that Crown Prince Wu Yu is definitely dead. The immortal guardian will never allow any danger, and the fact that he can be caught by surprise. Hao Tian definitely has everything under complete control. It also turns out what he really thinks about his student. He thinks she's a terrible woman, and he doesn't respect her at all. And 11 concubine admires her immortal master. Her heads are definitely shrouded in deception. She is now unable to see the whole truth in front of her. She also says that thanks to Hao Tian, she feels better and much calmer. Next, the situation with Wu Yu himself is clarified. The snowy mountains are now illuminated by the bright sun, and Wu Yu himself, without a creation, continues to lie in a snowdrift. Then Wu Yu abruptly and unexpectedly opens his eyes. The hero does not believe that he has not died yet. After all, everything pointed to the fact that Wu Yu is waiting for the demise of Wu Yu rises a little and immediately realizes that, among other things, the effect of the destruction of Wu Yu's soul has mysteriously disappeared. But Wu Yu is infinitely sorry that now, the fifth combat heaven of the hero, namely strengthened tendons, a strong body, blood transfusion, great inner strength and strengthened bones are no more. This is really a big loss for Wu Yu. It's a shame that now everything Wu Yu worked so hard on has simply been destroyed. Here the hero recalls the nightmare and the iron rod. As for them, Wu Yu recalls that at the age of 5, when Wu Yu's mother died, he was very, very lonely. But in order to somehow improve the little boy's condition, an old man came to his window every evening and told little Wu Yu different stories. Wu Yu always dreamed of seeing this old man. Because he never fully showed the boy, the hero only heard the old man's voice. But as soon as Wu Yu went outside, the old man immediately disappeared. And, about a year later, one late evening, the old man dropped a mysterious rod and Wu Yu noticed it. Then the old man told Wu Yu that he should always carry this rod with him and one day he would surely save the boy's life. Then Wu Yu sincerely thanked his grandfather for such an unusual gift. And now Wu Yu notices that this very iron staff has disappeared. Was this old man really the great sage Kai Tianda from the hero's dream? Then Wu Yu realizes that it's useless to think about all this right now. It is better to try to master the immortal body of the Vajra. Wu Yu is now carefully examining his hands. Now he will need them. After all, the first layer of the first level of the Vajra body is the strengthened Vajra body. It turns out that Kai goes straight out of Huagai, then passes through the cloud door and descends into the middle house. Wu Yu assumes the lotus position and begins preparing to master the immortal Vajra body. Night has already fallen, and Wu Yu is still not ready to move from this place. So, 4 whole days pass. Wu Yu has been sitting in the lotus position all this time and preparing for the first layer of the first level of the Vajra body. After that, Wu Yu asks for the heaven-given Vajra to strengthen the flesh and also the blood of the hero. Now Wu Yu can destroy a huge stone with a single punch. Wu Yu is very happy about this. Finally, with the help of great efforts, the first level of martial arts has just been achieved. And this is very cool. Now Wu Yu's strength is roughly equal to the power of 3 warhorses. This only means that it is 3 times more than the hero had in the past heaven. Now, Wu Yu's body has become very strong. And Wu Yu feels definitely much stronger. This technique is simply excellent. Further, Wu Yu does not understand at all why he does not continue working on his strength. The hero immediately decides to start cultivating the second level, and this is strengthening the tendons of the Vajra. Wu Yu trained hard and for a long time, first for 2 days and then for 3 days. He did not finish training strengthening the tendons of the Vajra on day 4. So it's been 6 whole days. Wu Yu has been actively and persistently working all this time in order to achieve his future goals. And so, only after 7 days of exhausting and hard work, the second layer on the body, namely the layer of Vajra tendons, was finally reached. Wu Yu concludes that the Vajra body is truly magnificent and powerful. Wu Yu realizes that his strength is already as much as 5 times greater than that of the most ordinary martial artist. His body is only getting more and more powerful. This is very good. Wu Yu concludes that now his strength and power is equal to 10 warhorses. Now, Wu Yu's strength has almost approached the 4th level of martial arts. But then, Wu Yu's joy is interrupted by something strange. Wu Yu abruptly felt some unknown and strange smell. He notices that there is clearly someone or something in the bushes in this forest. The hero turns around sharply. Now Wu Yu definitely understood that there was a demon all this time. A huge snake of dark color and with huge blue eyes is clearly aggressive towards Wu Yu. Now she is hissing and is definitely ready to attack the hero. Wu Yu abruptly gets into a fighting posture. He is already ready to fight with this demonic snake. But then, gradually, the demon begins to take on a human form. She turns into a girl with a combat weapon. The demonic snake is glad that she was finally able to find Wu Yu. She says that they met him again. Wu Yu immediately recognizes this demon, who is capable of assuming a humanoid appearance. Wu Yu says that this snake is a disciple of one of the Celestials. She is a disciple of Wang King. It is the heavenly resident protecting the country who warmed a demonic snake on his chest. And Wu Yu thinks it's not surprising that thousands of people have disappeared from Wu Yu's capital over the past 10 years. The snake girl says that Wu Yu really did a great job. After all, if the Supreme Master had not instructed the demonic snake to drag Wu Yu's body as proof, then for sure the hero would have faked his own death and would have escaped safely. Wu Yu is shocked. Did the demonic snake think that it could really defeat the hero alone? But the snake is really confident in his words, because it was earlier, in the past, Wu Yu was the strongest martial artist in the Wu Kingdom and was also the only one who mastered the 5th level of martial arts. Back then, the demonic snake was still a little short of Wu Yu, because to some extent it was afraid of the hero. But now, when Wu Yu was struck by the Destroyer of Souls, what is a hero capable of at all? The demonic snake is now very serious. It is definitely determined to eat Wu Yu's entire body, leaving only the head so that the snake has at least some evidence left. The snake girl is already going to attack the hero. Wu Yu is outraged by this opinion of himself. Is the demonic snake looking down on him? Wu Yu was just hoping very much for such a situation. Here, the demonic snake is already beginning to attack Wu Yu, then the hero deftly and sharply evades this capture. Wu Yu at this moment had already prepared his fist for a retaliatory attack. Because it was not for nothing that he had been training his body all this time in order to master the 1st and 2nd levels of Vajra, strengthening the body of Vajra and strengthening the tendons of Vajra. Wu Yu hits the demonic snake in the stomach. This blow is so powerful that the demonic snake flies back a few meters. Wu Yu's opponent has no chance against him. The demonic snake did not expect such a turn of events. How so? She says it's just not possible, damn it. Wu Yu was struck by the Destroyer of Souls, but in that case, where does the hero have such a huge power now? The demonic snake Wang Qin touches the place where Wu Yu hit her. It is clear that she is in great pain. Wu Yu analyzes the words of the demonic snake that she said earlier. It turns out that according to Wang Qin, she has only the 4th level of martial arts now, and if you also take into account her snake demon physique, then she is probably the 2nd after Wu Yu himself in the Wu Kingdom. Wu Yu decides that he must definitely finish off the demonic snake Wang Qin while she is injured and briefly immobilized. This must be done in order to avoid any threat in the future. Then Wu Yu begins his new attack on the demonic snake Wang Qin. Wang Qin sees what the hero is going to do, but everything happens so fast that the snake demon does not have time to do anything to prevent this attack. Wu Yu hits the demonic snake Wang Qin, and it flies even further away, while its back crashes into a tree behind it. Wang Qin still does not believe in what is happening. She says that the Destroyer of Souls could not fail to act. He always acts. There simply could not be any mistake. What the hell is going on here anyway? But Wu Yu is not going to tell the demonic snake Wang Qin in details. He continues to attack the snake. The girl has no choice but to transform the snake back. It transforms quickly and without slowing down. Next, she tells Wu Yu that now he will definitely come to an end. But Wu Yu doesn't hear her at all. Now he's going to attack the demonic snake Wang Qin with his strong leg. The hero kicks the snake with his foot. This blow was of such tremendous force that Wang Qin immediately finds himself with his muzzle pressed to the ground. Now Wu Yu was able to jump onto the snake's head without much difficulty. Wang Qin is completely at a loss. She is very scared of what is happening. Where does the hero get such power from anyway? What happened to him in such a short time? Meanwhile, Wu Yu takes a huge boulder in his right hand and immediately begins to beat the demonic snake Wang Qin on its muzzle. He does it with very active and fast movements to finally finish off such an undesirable enemy. The demonic snake is in a lot of pain. She is ready to start crying and immediately asks Wu Yu to spare the snake. She sincerely asks not to kill her. Wu Yu clearly doesn't want to do this. What does it mean? Spare the demonic snake Wang Qin. Wu Yu definitely intends not to do this. On the contrary, he is going to tear the snake into 1,000 small pieces. But the snake keeps begging Wu Yu for mercy. She says that if he does not stop killing her, but she intends to tell the hero one of the secrets that is somehow connected with the death of Wu Yu's father. And at this moment, Wang Qin thinks that her insidious plan is almost ready. It remains only to talk Wu Yu's teeth and deceive the main character, the demonic snake, without thinking twice about the fact that the ones who killed Wu Yu's father were Mr. Wang Qin and also his concubine. Wu Yu is immediately distracted from finishing off Wang Qin. What did she even just say? The hero is completely perplexed by what is happening. Then, in general, it is not surprising that Wu Yu's father died of some kind of illness literally 6 months later, and he was in the prime of his powers. So that's what really happened. Wu Yu was finally able to understand everything. And the demonic snake Wang Qin continues to tell the details of this murder. She says that in order to competently and without unnecessary suspicion kill Wu Yu's father, the owner of the snake spent a fairly decent amount of his poison. It turns out that all these poisons were mixed into him by the hero's father with the own hands of one of the concubines. The demonic snake Wang Qin is only waiting for Wu Yu to get angry from this true story, just invented by the insidious snake, because this is the only way Wang Qin can survive. And Wu Yu is really starting to get more and more angry. He is actually beside himself with the useful information that Wu Yu has just learned. Here, the demonic snake Wang Qin sees that Wu Yu is completely lost concentration on this fight. She realizes that she has a chance to kill the hero. She says out loud that she has just deceived Wu Yu, so she immediately decides to attack the hero in order to kill him. Wu Yu wasn't ready for this. He really lost all his concentration and is now falling down the cliff. Now the hero finds himself in the water. Apparently, he will hit the water of the Bibo River quite hard and painfully. Next, the demonic snake Wang Qin transforms back into a human. She, all pretty wounded, says that her death was definitely close enough. But it's very good that she managed to escape so cleverly, with the help of this river. After all, it's for sure that having fallen from such a great height into the Bibo River, an ordinary person is definitely doomed to imminent death. The demonic snake Wang Qin examines the water, although she does not see Wu Yu's corpse, but the job is definitely done. But, much to the regret of the demonic snake Wang Qin, Wu Yu is alive. Now he comes to his senses and tears his eyes off. He looks around. Wu Yu immediately realizes that this place is definitely not familiar to him. And why is the Kai energy so clearly felt here? There is also a grandfather in this small house. He is very happy that Wu Yu has finally come to his senses and woken up. Wu Yu is very surprised to see this person in front of him. Wu Yu had definitely heard this old man's voice earlier. Yes, this is the same grandfather who told Wu Yu fairy tales as a child to calm him down. And after all, this old man gave the hero the same iron rod. Wu Yu decides to hurriedly ask his grandfather about it. Did they by any chance see him about 10 years ago? But Grandpa denies all this. How is this possible? After all, this grandfather has been living in these mountains for 80 years, and he has never left them at all. Then how could he see Wu Yu? Then Wu Yu decides to ask Grandpa another question. He is very interested in where they are now. Immediately Grandfather replies that they are now at the gates of immortality. Wu Yu is very surprised when he hears this information. What's going on here anyway? What other gates of immortality? Old Grandpa is very surprised by such a question from Wu Yu. Has the hero never heard of Xianmen? As it turns out, from this name it can be understood that Xianmen is a kind of sect that is directly engaged in cultivating immortal guardians. Wu Yu tells Grandpa that he has heard before that immortal cultivators usually never interfere in any human affairs, because few people know about them at all. But that's where all of Wu Yu's knowledge ends. Wu Yu sincerely thanks Grandfather for his rescue. He also tells the old man that his name is Wu Yu. Then, the hero becomes interested in what his savior's name is. Then he directly asks his grandfather about his name. The girl replies that his name is Sun Wudao, but he is not at all the one who saved Wu Yu. In fact, it was the headmaster who rescued him from the Bibo River and also appointed Wu Yu as a servant here. Then Wu Yu asks permission from Sun Wudao to go out right now and immediately look around. He wonders where he really is now. What kind of place is this? Sun Wudao says that to begin with, the hero will have to drink this ginseng soup, which was previously prepared by his grandfather himself. Then Wu Yu obeys Grandpa and starts drinking ginseng soup. As expected from Xianmen, this soup seems to be very unusual. It really has an interesting taste. Wu Yu drank all the ginseng soup quickly enough. Next, Sun Wudao asks the hero to follow him. They need to go somewhere. Then Wu Yu goes outside. The hero immediately has to cover his face with his hand, because it's very bright outside. Then Wu Yu realizes something that surprises him very much. It turns out that the Heavenly Sword sect is indeed in the sky. It is located on a huge stone that hovers in the sky above other buildings that are already located on the ground. Wu Yu understands that this is a real paradise on Earth. It's just unbelievable. It really resembles a real miracle. Next, Wu Yu decides to express his emotions to Sun Wudao. He explains that what he now sees with his own eyes is simply incredible. It turns out that such places really exist in this amazing world. This is not a fiction at all. Sun Wudao explains to the hero that their immortal sect has many arts that are directly related to swords, which is why it is called the Heavenly Sword School. Xianmen itself is located among the Blue Mountains that dominate the lands among some other countries. It is here that countless students of the Heavenly Sword School live, compared to the country itself, which has a small size. Suyu is very surprised, because the Heavenly Sword sect is a very powerful name. Then Grandpa Sun Wudao hands out new clothes for Sun Wudao. Then the hero needs to change more, and then follow Sun Wudao to the mountain. And then, during their little Wuyu walk, Grandpa Sun Wudao will tell the hero in more detail about our sect. Wuyu is very happy about this. He is very interested in learning the following details about this amazing place. So, the strong one in this Heavenly Sword sect is the main supreme mentor, and is also a legendary immortal celestial. Sun Wudao says that the elders follow after him, and only then the main disciples of the Heavenly School follow. And only after them are the so-called external disciples. Wuyu continues to listen attentively to Sun Wudao. Then Grandpa continues his story further. It turns out that there is also a certain difference in status between the main students and the external students. And since the number of external disciples is about 100 times the number of all the main disciples. But with all this, most of them here are only servants for those who have a higher status. And they have, for example, to take care of the nutrition of the mentor, and the celestial and the most important elders, the main disciples and external disciples. Therefore, it is necessary to grow certain heavenly herbs for them, then feed all their spiritual beasts, and they are also obliged to take care of cleanliness from the palaces themselves. That's all the servants work here. Sun Wudao also explains that there are hundreds and hundreds of servants working here for the main students directly and only dozens of servants for external students. Also, there are a number of certain rules that absolutely all servants are obliged to observe without any exception. All servants in the Heaven of the Sword sect are forbidden to leave this room without permission to do so. All this will happen until the servant reaches the 6th level of preparation of his mortal body before the person reaches his 15 years. Sun Wudao also tells Wuyu that already at the 6th level of martial arts, servants have the opportunity to take and pass the certification, and after passing it become a full-fledged disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect. And so, in this way, servants no longer have to be just servants for others anymore, because now you can start cultivating your immortality. But Sun Wudao himself is sorry that he was only one step away from this, and missed such an opportunity in the distant past. Sun Wudao and Wuyu pass by the servants who are watching one of them trying his luck and trying to become an external disciple. And this guy really does it. Now he is a full-fledged external student. And only now does he have the opportunity to start cultivating his immortality. Wuyu analyzes what Grandpa Wudao said. He was talking about 15 years, but after all, the hero will be 16 years old in 2 months. Wuyu is very sorry, because if he hadn't been stuffed with powder then, but Wuyu would have been able to safely move to the 6th level of martial arts in just a few days. Here Sun Wudao makes a very important emphasis on the fact that Wuyu, being a servant, the most important rule is not to offend immortal guardians and immortal celestials in any case. It does not matter at all whether the hero is an external student. You always need to remember that at any moment they can kill for such an insult. Wuyu understood this. He promises Grandpa Sun Wudao that the hero will definitely remember this, and definitely will not risk his life. Here Sun Wudao looks into the sky and notices that an immortal celestial is flying there. Here, Grandpa warns Wuyu about this, and he asks the hero to bow his head quickly and without slowing down. After all, this celestial Su Yanli herself is the mistress of Yanli Peak, on which they all live. Wuyu is delighted with all this, so he ignores Grandpa Sun Wudao's words. Here, Grandpa puts his hand on the hero's head and tilts it down on his own. Now it looks like Wuyu is paying respect to the celestial Su Yanli. Also, it turns out that she is directly a direct disciple of the mentor himself, and, on top of everything else, has a very high status among other main students. All this is about Su Yanli, who is now flying in the sky, sitting on a white and black bird that moves with a girl on her body. Further, Sun Wudao says that to their great happiness with Wuyu, the celestial Su Yanli did not notice all this. Otherwise, if she suddenly saw that Wuyu would not have bowed before her, then Wuyu would definitely have died. Wuyu is very shocked by this information. It turns out that the path of the immortal guardians is even more dangerous than it seemed at first glance. Here, Wuyu wants to know when the next certification for the servants will take place so that they become full-fledged disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect. Therefore, the hero asks Uncle Sun about it. Then, Grandpa Sun Wudao says that this certification will take place in exactly 2 months. Meanwhile, Sun Wudao and Wuyu came to the place. Now the heroes have a view of the Garden of Heavenly Beasts. Now, Sun Wudao's task for today is to take care of them. The Garden of Heavenly Beasts is very beautiful, where there is a waterfall, beautiful flora and fauna. Here, the head assistant Zhao Chuan asks Sun Wudao about what kind of person is walking next to him. Sun Wudao and Wu Yu greet Zhao Chuan's henchmen and other people. Grandpa immediately says that next to him is a guy named Wu Yu. Then, Zhao Chuan's henchman remembers that it seems that this Wu Yu was picked up by their mentor. Since this has already happened, then this guy must definitely be strong, since he was able to survive in the Babo River. The mentor decides that he needs to take and learn as much as possible about this mysterious newcomer. Here, Zhao Chuan's henchman turns to Wu Yu and immediately, asks him to show him what Wu Yu is capable of. Wu Yu is scared. He has just recently found himself in a new place and is not quite used to everything in this heavenly sword sect yet. He would like to get used to it more, and then there follows such an unexpected request from Zhao Chuan's henchman. Here, Sun Wudao noticeably begins to get nervous because of everything that is happening. He explains to Zhao Chuan's henchman that Wu Yu's body is still very, very weak. And besides, Zhao Chuan's henchman has already reached the whole 4th level in preparing an immortal body. And therefore, Wu Yu will clearly not be able to make any competition for Zhao Chuan's strong and powerful henchman. Therefore, Zhao Chuan is very angry about this. He calls it all a waste of time. He talks very rudely to Wu Yu. He immediately tells him that if he does not continue to fool around, he will pay for such stupid recklessness with his life. Then Sun Wudao tells his assistant Zhao Chuan that he should not worry about all this at all. After all, if Wu Yu does something wrong, then Sun Wudao himself will be able to do it for the hero. Then Zhao Chuan's henchman asks you to listen to him very carefully. It turns out that several other Celestials will have to visit Ms. Su today. That is why the servants Wu Yu and Sun Wudao should take care of the cranes in the Heavenly Garden of Beasts very carefully. He also warns the heroes that if suddenly something goes wrong, then only one thing will happen. They will have to pay with their miserable and insignificant lives. Wu Yu and Sun Wudao answer him that they understood everything and immediately get down to business. Zhao Chuan's henchman then rides a crane into the sky and tells Su Yanli that today he came to his elder sister Su in order to find out the way to gain immortality. He also asks the girl about whether she brought the same thank you gift with you. Su Yanli further asks the hero about whether he really wants to take and pay off Su's sister in this way for his poor or even terrible performance in mastering cultivation. Zhao Chuan's henchman starts laughing at Su Yanli's words, but in fact this is a man's defensive reaction. The whole Celestial has just voiced the whole truth. Meanwhile, Wu Yu and Sun Wudao are standing and bowing their heads before the Celestial. Wu Yu had already memorized this rule and followed the rule of the Heavenly Sword sect without his grandfather's reminders. Next, Sun Wudao warns Wu Yu that he does not need to look into the eyes of the Celestial in any case. Wu Yu understands everything perfectly himself. He tells Grandpa Sun for reminding the hero about it once again. Further, several Celestials pass by Wu Yu, but he, as Sun Wudao told him, did not dare to raise his head. All this time he continued to look at the ground. But then Wu Yu abruptly becomes very sad because of all this. After all, if it wasn't for Duan Hong-san, then perhaps Wu Yu could also have become one of all these Celestials. The hero is very sorry that now he is only at the level of a servant, but he could be much higher now. Meanwhile, it was already evening. All this time, Sun Wudao and Wu Yu are putting things in order in the Heavenly Garden of Beasts. They sweep the paths in the garden and also feed the head cranes. Then, unexpectedly, the main disciple Jin appears in the Heavenly Garden of Beasts. He abruptly begins to be indignant after he saw the condition of his crane. Who dared to do such a thing to the crane of the main student? Disciple Jin is beside himself with rage, because his crane has obviously drunk too much water, and is now lying on the ground, because he felt bad. He immediately becomes interested in who actually fed his crane. Then Zhao Chuan's henchman abruptly appears, who decides to blame all the blame on Wu Yu. He tells the main disciple Jin that it was Wu Yu who was responsible for this heavenly crane. But in fact, Wu Yu has nothing to do with this at all. All this time he was busy with completely different things, and he would not have had time to feed the heavenly crane of the main disciple of Tsnizia in any way. Zhao Chuan's henchman behaved rudely and disrespectfully towards Wu Yu, because he brazenly took and framed the main character. Zhao Chuan thinks that the newcomer is definitely in trouble and full. He is very interested in how these events will develop further. Wu Yu immediately tells the main disciple Jin that he definitely did not do this. But the main disciple is not going to listen to these pathetic excuses. He takes the whip and immediately intends to punish Wu Yu for his such a gross mistake. Immediately, without any slowing down, Wu Yu receives a very strong and powerful whip blow on the body. This blow was really strong, which even knocks Wu Yu off his feet. The main disciple Jin tells Wu Yu that the hero is a very insignificant servant, and how he even dared to take and so harm his crane. Wu Yu finally falls to the ground, then the hero tries to get to his feet. But the main disciple Jin is determined to hit the hero again. Then, Sun Wudao decides to protect Wu Yu from the new ones. He tells the Celestial that in fact it was he, Sun Wudao, who fed the Jin crane. Therefore, Wu Yu does not need to be punished. On the contrary, he needs to be spared. Wu Yu thinks that it is quite obvious that Zhao Chuan appeared here only because of the hero himself, which only means that he will not be able to blame the girl's son for anything. Then, Wu Yu says out loud that the one who did this and was so guilty before the Celestial, he should bear full responsibility for it, regardless of any other circumstances. Poor disciple Jin is very surprised by such a harsh and even audacious statement by Wu Yu. He says that the hero certainly does not take courage. This Celestial most of all cannot tolerate those stupid and pathetic people who are devoid of any competence, but still full of some kind of unreasonableness with courage. Another Celestial behind the main disciple says that such garbage deserves only death. And if Jin doesn't kill Wu Yu right now, then the other servants will stop observing the decorum established here. We need to teach everyone else a lesson. The main student agrees with the words of another Celestial. She is absolutely right now. Then the Celestial Jin strikes Wu Yu again, but much harder with his whip. Now is the time to teach all these idiots a lesson, including Wu Yu. This whip strike was really very strong. Wu Yu at that time flies even further and now crashes into a small pile of stones. The Celestial tells the main disciple Jin that Wu Yu probably died after such a thing. An ordinary person would definitely not be able to survive. She says to forget about this guy already. The Celestial thinks that Wu Yu really should have died already and recovered to the next world. Now, it's time for all the Celestials to leave the heavenly garden of beasts. But, much to the misfortune of these arrogant Celestials, Wu Yu is definitely still alive. The hero begins to clear his throat. He also thinks that in these 2 months he simply has to join this Zion Men. For Wu Yu is very, very serious. He definitely wants to take revenge on other Celestials for today's humiliation. It must happen sooner or later. Wu Yu also thinks that this revenge extends to Zhao Chuan's henchmen. This terrible and dishonest man who framed the hero and simply blamed all the blame on Wu Yu, although the hero was definitely not to blame for all this. Here, Sun Wudao runs to Wu Yu to help him get up on his nails. Grandpa also says that he himself understands perfectly well that Wu Yu hates them very much. But still, the hero should not do such thoughtless things. Sun Wudao says that after all, you should always take into account that mortals cannot fight with immortal Celestials in any way. Sun Wudao also asks Wu Yu to promise him that he will no longer carry himself like this. Then Wu Yu replies to his grandfather that they cannot forget such arrogance and such humiliation that happened to him. Wu Yu is also very interested in why Grandpa Sun Wudao is so kind to him. Grandpa says that all this is really nothing. After all, this is the fate of Sun Wudao. He has always lived like this and will continue to live like this. Sun Wudao further says that Wu Yu, unlike his grandfather, is still very young. And that's why Grandpa really hopes that Wu Yu will be able to live a good and happy life without any bullying from other people, like his Uncle Sun. After these words, Wu Yu becomes even more furious. The hero definitely realizes that he cannot promise Sun Wudao this in any way. He decides that since Wu Yu has an indestructible Vajra body, and that is why he wants to make sure to make all his efforts to take and join the rest of the Celestials, and only then will certainly take revenge on them for today's situation. Meanwhile, it's been 10 whole days. All these days, Wu Yu has been actively training his body. So, 10 days have already passed, so it definitely shouldn't be too far to the 3rd level of the indestructible Vajra body, and, accordingly, the golden flame bone is also not far away. Now Wu Yu is actively training on one of the trees in the forest. Wu Yu has been training so actively that this poor tree has broken here and has already fallen to the ground. It turns out that Zhao Chuan's henchman has been watching this training all this time. Here Wu Yu remembers that he was so deeply immersed in his own training that he completely forgot that you always need to pay attention to your observers. Zhao Chuan's henchman makes a very strange face. He calls Wu Yu a very lucky man. Now, the subordinates of Zhao Chuan's henchmen are discussing Wu Yu. Someone from this pitiful crowd says that earlier, Sun Wudao said that Wu Yu survived after he was whipped. They conclude that something absolutely wrong is going on here. The other guy says that Wu Yu must have been very, very lucky, that's all. Then, Zhao Chuan's henchman asks Wu Yu about what kind of treasure he actually received. A secret book or, conversely, some kind of mysterious pill. The hero urgently needs to tell about his secret, otherwise Wu Yu will have to die. Zhao Chuan's henchmen and his people clearly underestimate Wu Yu. They also allow themselves too much in their statements. Here, Wu Yu honestly replies that he definitely has nothing to give to Zhao Chuan's henchmen. Next, the hero thinks that this henchman Zhao Chuan, according to the rumors that Wu Yu heard earlier, is now at the 4th level of body training. And this only means that now the strength of Zhao Chuan's henchmen is equal to the strength of about 20 horses. And this already means that Zhao Chuan has exactly 2 times more strength than Wu Yu himself, because he now only has the strength of about 10 horses. Wu Yu will have to try very hard to defeat Zhao Chuan's henchmen. Here, one of the people of Zhao Chuan's henchmen tells his master that this brat Wu Yu is simply too stubborn, so the best solution is to get rid of the main character as soon as possible. Then, Zhao Chuan's henchman tells this man that he gives him the opportunity to take and distinguish himself now. Zhao Chuan's man should knock out Wu Yu's teeth, and only after that they will all look at whether he will be able to clownish with people who are higher than Wu Yu in rank and status. A man who is under the power of Zhao Chuan's henchmen. He is already rushing into battle with Wu Yu. The man asks his master to look at how he will now send Wu Yu to heaven with one of his strong blows. Wu Yu thinks that this guy is actually a complete loser and a loser, but how dare he even talk to Wu Yu like that? Here, Wu Yu decides to hit this guy first. He strikes with a powerful kick right into the stomach of subordinate Zhao Chuan. Wu Yu says that it's better to take and use this person for his warm-up. The man immediately flies away from Wu Yu very far. This is clearly not what all these vile people hoped for. Assistant Zhao Chuan and all his people have already noticeably tensed up. Now they are not laughing at all, because they have just seen that Wu Yu clearly poses a certain danger. He has power, and Wu Yu clearly understands how to use it correctly. Zhao Chuan's henchman still doesn't understand why this Wu Yu is so strong. Seeing that their comrade and part-time subordinate Zhao Chuan, then they decide what to take and attack Wu Yu with their whole group. Exactly, you need to attack the hero altogether, because it is unlikely that Wu Yu will be able to resist 4 opponents at the same time. They do not hesitate to make a quick decision to avenge their just humiliated brother. They run at Wu Yu, preparing to attack the hero. But Wu Yu doesn't care how many rivals he will have. He says that they were the first to start it, so they are to blame for everything that is happening now. Then the hero begins to defend himself. Wu Yu also asks them not to blame him for anything later. Then Wu Yu starts attacking Zhao Chuan's subordinates in response. He takes one of the guys, grabs him by the head and grabs his head so hard, so this guy literally punches the ground with his head. The other guys are diligently trying to somehow hurt Wu Yu, but they only get unsuccessful attempts. Meanwhile, Wu Yu punches another opponent in the face with his fist and informs that he is definitely not going to hold back in this fight. Next, he knocks his knee into the stomach of his other opponent with turquoise hair. Now, Zhao Chuan's henchman sees that Wu Yu has very correct and refined movements, and also the hero has a very strong body. It all boils down to the fact that Wu Yu is far from the most ordinary person. It seems that Zhao Chuan will have to give his all to cope with Wu Yu and teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, Wu Yu thinks that his new and immortal Vajra body is so strong and powerful that even ordinary attacks are not able to cause Wu Yu absolutely no harm and damage at all. Wu Yu concludes that such a sharp and quick revenge is so great. Wu Yu has already defeated all the subordinates of Zhao Chuan's henchmen, and now it's time for Zhao Chuan himself to join this fight. Wu Yu has already challenged Zhao Chuan's henchmen. Now it's really his turn. Zhao Chuan's henchman says that Wu Yu is a very heartless person. And does he really allow himself to think that a hero with only one power of his body will be able to cope with Zhao Chuan's sword? The man says that Wu Yu should just take and die. But Wu Yu laughs at the words of Zhao Chuan's henchman. Then he rushes into the attack without hesitation. He decides to use the fist of the dragon, which is wrapped in a tiger. It's time for Wu Yu to experience this powerful punch. Here, Zhao Chuan's henchman says that Wu Yu simply has not fully realized his own strength yet. Here, Wu Yu misses Zhao Chuan's henchman. Therefore, his powerful dragon fist wrapped in a tiger cannot be used in this attack. Zhao Chuan's henchman tells Wu Yu if he really thinks that any stupid person can become a caretaker of the Garden of Heavenly Beasts. These words mean that Zhao Chuan's henchman is not an ordinary person, so Wu Yu will have to sweat a lot in this fight. Here, the defeated subordinates of Mr. Zhao Chuan will tell their master that he took and dealt with Wu Yu. He needs to be killed. But he must give away the treasure that supplies Wu Yu with this mysterious and powerful power. Yes, we really need to deal with this arrogant guy. Further, Wu Yu only gets more and more serious. He is definitely aware that this Zhao Chuan is already at the stage called inner fortitude. Wu Yu understands that now Mr. Zhao's entire body is as if it was forged from steel. In addition, he has the right and measured breathing. It really will not be so easy to cope with him. The subordinates of Zhao Chuan's henchmen believe that their master will definitely be able to defeat Wu Yu. After all, this bastard Wu Yu is one of Sun Wudao's people. One of these guys says that he is literally going to throw this old man off the cliff tomorrow. Sun Wudao will definitely become excellent food for vultures. Another subordinate agrees with such a harsh opinion of his comrade, because it's Grandpa Sun Wudao who has been bothering everyone's eyes for a very long time. Mr. Zhao Chuan says that he is already ready to fight with Wu Yu. He picks up his pearl flower sword. Zhao Chuan's henchman is really doing what Wu Yu asked for. But Wu Yu was ready for this attack. In order to evade the sword, he actively uses the ghostly gait of a monkey. Wu Yu also heard that these terrible people were going to kill Uncle Sun. But now they are all in a very critical situation. And only by fighting for life and death, then only for this reason will Wu Yu and Sun Wudao be able to survive and protect themselves. But Wu Yu also thinks that, however, even this henchman Zhao Chuan owns the martial art of the middle rank of the national treasure. Meanwhile, the hero continues to dodge the blows of the pearl flower sword. But all these blows are passing by and by. Mr. Zhao Chuan considers the hero a great coward. He only knows how to dodge and escape from a direct battle. Zhao Chuan's henchman sincerely wishes Wu Yu to die as soon as possible. Zhao Chuan decides to act more seriously, and he was finally able to touch Wu Yu's pearl flower with his sword. Here, Wu Yu, struck by the sword of Zhao Chuan's henchman, flies into the nearest tree and hits it hard. But Wu Yu tolerates this serious blow more or less well. He is incredibly glad that he managed to get his golden bones at the 3rd level of the immortal Vajra body before this fight. 4. Wu Yu would otherwise have already been killed by this pearl flower sword of Zhao Chuan's henchmen. Here, the subordinates of their master say that Wu Yu is already a dead man. They strongly ask the gentleman that he first cut off all of Wu Yu's limbs and then thoroughly interrogate him. Others also agree with this scenario, which has just been announced. Indeed, it is necessary to torture Wu Yu to tell the whole truth, and then they can throw him into the mountains to feed a wild wolf. Then, Zhao Chuan's henchman makes another swing with the pearl flower sword. He tells Wu Yu to finally take and accept his fate, and accept his miserable defeat. Mr. Zhao Chuan is already striking with his sword, but then Wu Yu grabs this sword with his bare hands alone and stops the attack coming at him. Wu Yu says that Zhao Chuan's henchman did not even dream of his victory. Everything will definitely not turn out the way the master wants it. Zhao Chuan's henchman, like his loyal subordinates, is completely at a loss right now. What's going on at all? How does Wu Yu have the strength for such an action? Subordinates all shout with one voice that such a thing is impossible in any way. But Wu Yu has already done it. He managed to restrain the onslaught of the pearl flower dream on his own. Next, Wu Yu uses his blue dragon fist and punches Zhao Chuan right in the face. The hero clearly says that he is not ready to put up with his fate under any circumstances. Zhao Chuan's henchman is even more perplexed. But what kind of creature is this? How did he get such a strong man like Mr. Zhao Chuan? Wu Yu is very happy that everything went as he planned. And if it wasn't for this powerful breakthrough of the Vajra bones, then this pearl flower sword would have broken Wu Yu's arm. The subordinates of the Lord are in complete shock. Did Wu Yu just take and kill their Lord Zhao? It also just means that according to the laws of the Heavenly Sword sect, Wu Yu should definitely be executed. The guys are very sorry for their strong master Zhao Chuan. How could he possibly lose to this weakling Wu Yu? Now, Wu Yu turns his attention to his subordinates. He says that they had previously discussed how he was going to kill Wu Yu himself today, and tomorrow throw the grandfather of the hero Sun Wudao off the cliff to feed the vultures. Wu Yu asks again about whether these guys really discussed all this earlier. But then the guys, seeing all the power and strength of Wu Yu, and also fearing that they will be killed themselves later, decide to tell the hero that they did not say all this. Perhaps Wu Yu didn't just misunderstand everything. Here Wu Yu says that he, in his entire life, killed only 2 types of people. The first, the most cruel and insidious, and also those who harbored a deep hatred for other people. Wu Yu takes the pearl flower sword of Mr. Zhao Chuan and kills the guys with clear and fast movements, one by one. Wu Yu concludes that they were all too pathetic, and they completely do not meet the requirements of the hero. The guy immediately thanks the great sage Buddha Kai Tian for giving Wu Yu his second life and also the opportunity to get such power. Also, the hero concludes that the pearl flower sword is pretty good. Wu Yu decides that the best solution would be to hide it for now. But when Wu Yu passes his entrance exam, then only then will the hero be able to use it. He immediately buries the sword in the ground. In the meantime, one of the Celestials is watching all this. She really wants to know what kind of transformation Wu Yu was able to get. Apparently, this power is really good, since the hero managed to kill Zhao Chuan's henchman. But the hero does not notice that they were being monitored. Now he is more busy with his thoughts. Wu Yu thinks that with the current level of recovery of Vajra's body, most of the hero's wounds will have to heal by about tomorrow morning. And, nevertheless, Wu Yu decides that the wounds on the guy's hands should not be shown to Sun Wudao, because the uncle should not be forced to worry about it. Wu Yu decides that it is already necessary to return to Sun Wudao's house. The hero also thinks that Uncle Sun is probably already asleep. The guy quietly opens the door to the. Then Wu Yu notices a note on the table in the house and decides to read it right away. It says that Wu Yu needs to drink the decoction that Sun Wudao sentenced, so his wounds will have to heal faster. Wu Yu really wants Uncle Sun not to worry about him, but the hero really wants to fulfill this unfulfilled wish of Sun Wudao in this entrance exam. He remembers the words of his grandfather that once upon a time he was only one step away from this, and now he has been serving the Celestials for 80 years, although it is quite possible that Sun Wudao's life could have turned out completely differently, and he would not have to go through all these humiliations and insults in his direction. That is why Wu Yu thinks that after he joins this heavenly sect of immortal celestials, and after that, he will never take his eyes off those who previously mistreated the hero, and at least did some harm to him. Meanwhile, it's been a whole 2 days later. The actions take place at the main peak of Babo, that is, at the heavenly peak. And to be even more precise, in the heavenly palace of the Celestials, which is located at this very peak. Here, the Celestial, who had previously seen what Wu Yu had done, decides to tell her main mentor about this situation. She's already finishing her report. Then, the mentor asks what the Celestial is going to do next. The girl, without thinking twice, recalls one of the many proverbs. It is not his own fault that a person was envied. And then the Celestial remembers what the mentor once taught the girl himself. Namely, he believes that the ways of all immortal guardians are actually the hard way of a predator. That is why the Celestial declares that she definitely intends to take for herself the mysterious treasure that this insidious Wu Yu owns. The Supreme Master of the Heavenly Sword Sect Feng Zhui tells Chu Yanli that according to his principles, the Babo cultivation method is a very significant and great talent that any diligent and skillful student can comprehend. And as a reliable teacher of the girl, he says that with his cultivation methods, Su Yanli will be able to reach the golden core stage and also the level of his wise mentor Feng Zhui. Su Yanli says that everything is like that, and from now on, the girl will focus on learning the heavenly sword technique of Feng Zhui. The mentor is really very happy about this. He also informs his dear student that she simply has to master the enormous willpower to contemptuously look at this world together with her mentor. And even though this path of the immortal guardians is very thorny and dangerous, it is also necessary to be a worthy person. And bullying weaker people is definitely not one of Feng Zhui's principles. Su Yanli immediately says that she has already understood everything. Now, the mentor says that the Celestial is already free and can go. He also adds that Wu Yu has the makings to also become a Celestial. And since the hero is a member of the peak of Su Yanli, it is she who should take care of Wu Yu as best as possible. The girl obediently agrees with her mentor. A month has passed since all these events. Sun Wudao tells Wu Yu that he should not go outside today in any case. He'd better rest in his room tonight. After all, it is reported that Zhao Chuan's henchmen and the rest of his people died because of some angry demon. Then Wu Yu asks Grandpa Sun Wudao not to worry about all this. The hero will not leave the limits of the heavenly garden of beasts, and certainly is not going to go far from this place. Su Yu also asks Grandpa to call him when it's time to start their work. Sun Wudao agrees with this, but in any case, but very strongly asks the hero to be very careful and careful. Wu Yu notices that this old man treats him like his own son. Therefore, Wu Yu must definitely surprise everyone so that the girl's son would be proud of him. Now, the time has come for the quadruple immortal Vajra body. These are the 5 spiritual organs. And if he can separate the spirit of pure gold, the spirit of purple gold, the spirit of yellow gold, the spirit of white gold, and the spirit of black gold, and by connecting them with the 5 organs of Wu Yu, then everything will be perfect. And before connecting them, Wu Yu has to break all his 5 organs, and this is very difficult. But by the strong tension of his body, the hero tries to do it. Wu Yu also understands that he has only one and only chance. The hero cannot fail in any way. And so, Wu Yu finally managed to reach the 4th stage of the perfect mortal body of the 5 spiritual organs. The hero could not have expected that this perfectly completed stage 4 of the perfect body would be equal to the strength of 134 horses. And it is much stronger than the usual stage 6 of the perfect body. This is definitely the last day as a servant. And tomorrow Wu Yu will finally join the heavenly sect. Here, Sun Wudao says that it's time to work. Wu Yu reminds Grandpa that there will be entrance exams tomorrow, and he asks Grandpa to come watch them. Sun Wudao agrees. But here, the Celestials, who were previously involved in beating the hero, descend from the cranes to the ground. Sun Wudao wanted to help Wu Yu escape, but it was too late. They see that the hero is not dead after all. Wu Yu understands that now he and the Celestial Jin are equal in strength, but their statuses differ. Then it's better not to create any problems now. Wu Yu decides to behave respectfully with the Celestials. But then another external student intervenes, Hua Kayanu, who considers Sita Jin a weakling who can't even kill a servant successfully. She says that if her crane had been mistreated, she would have simply killed this man. Wu Yu does not want to complicate this situation, but he is also not going to be on the sidelines. Then Jin again can't disgrace himself in front of other Celestials. He takes out his whip again and almost hits Wu Yu. But suddenly something strange happens and someone hits Jin in the face, and he crashes into the stones. The guy is outraged. Who dared to do this to him? Then he sees that it was the terrible Sister Su. But why is she here? Then Su Yanli says that Jin and his trio are forbidden to appear on her peaks. She says that Wu Yu is also part of this mountain, and if he needs to be punished, then it should be done by the Celestial herself, and not by Jin with her friends. Then, Jin and his girlfriend start threatening Jin's older brother for 30 years, and his abilities far surpass Su Yanli's. But they have nothing more to say, and, angry, they leave Yanli Mountain. Wu Yu is very grateful to the Celestial for this. Su Yanli says not to take it into your head. Wu Yu and Sun Wudao can calmly exhale. Then Grandpa explains to the hero where he will conduct the exam. It's a long way, so Wu Yu should move out tonight. Next, Wu Yu and Sun Wudao are already at the peak of the elevation, the place of the exam. The hero himself says that Grandpa will be able to observe everything first, and Wu Yu himself has to go down for now. Wu Yu runs to his goal. He asks everyone to burn a little, and in a few moments Wu Yu will definitely get into the heavenly sect of the Celestials. The young man walks down the school corridor with his hands in his pockets. He is wearing a school uniform that looks more like a sports uniform, with a white hoodie under it. His dark hair looks careless, and two curls stick up like horns in the devil. He moves quietly and gloomily around the school under the angry, or hostile, or mocking glances of other students. Someone asks in an audible whisper whether this guy is Tang Zhang or not. Another asks if this is the loser who stands first from the end. Someone interrupts a friend, reminding him that Tang Zhang used to be the first in the city, but in response receives a disparaging exclamation. How someone like this young man has not yet been kicked out of the Pengcheng school. Anyway, nobody knows anything. The student reaches his class, the sign above which says that he belongs to the first class of high school. There are two guys in the room, one nondescript, the second with an interesting comb on his head, and a girl are having fun talking. But then Tang Zhang enters. His appearance does not go unnoticed. While the guy with horns sits down, an unremarkable young man tells his friend, apparently, to see who came, pointing at Tang Zhang's back. Kaio Fei also notices him, and the friend continues to be sarcastic for show. Isn't it there Tang Zhang, number one? The young man does not react to the ridicule of a classmate in any way, only silently takes a book out of his backpack. Then the guy with the comb calls out to a classmate, then, coming up, grabs the hood and asks why he ignores people. Kaio Fei imperiously pulls the hood over Tang Zhang's head and with an evil smile demands to finally return the money that he stole from him. He's not going to say it twice. The young man with the horns doesn't say a word. Because of this, the classmate is seriously angry and wholeheartedly beats Tang Zhang, asking if he is deaf or how Kaio Fei is actually talking to him. The bully rudely reminds the young man that now he is not number one, only the first from the end. It infuriates him that Tang Zhang is a favorite of adults, so he eats and dresses for school benefits, and also dared to steal his money. The guy with the horns calmly removes his hood and confidently declares that he did not steal anything. And if Kaio Fei has no proof, then you don't just blame people. A young man with a comb-over finally loses his temper. He grabs a classmate by the collar, lifts him up, bringing him closer to a face distorted with rage. This Tang Zheng always behaves like this. Who does he think he is? Thinks he's still number one. Having shouted, the bully suddenly smiles slyly. He gloatingly tells the guy about the rumor that his grandfather is ill. He must have stolen money to save his dying old man. Tang Zhen's orange eyes widen in shock. He is convulsively aware that the case is rubbish. Kaio Fei notices a change in his mood. He is not going to say anything anymore, and, supported by the class laughing at the young man, the bully only pushes more so that the young man quickly returns the money. Tang Zhen suddenly feels unwell. His head starts to hurt again. Everything around fades and darkens. The guy vaguely feels that he is falling from weakness, but someone is holding him back. Who is it? He vaguely discerns a female profile with short hair. Fan Shishi. Yes, it really is her. Why is she helping him? In any case, the girl fervently stands up for Tang Zheng. He has always been a good person. How can he steal money? Kaio Fei just treats others badly. After that, Fang Shishi turns to the young man, worried if he is okay. Maybe he should go to the nurse. Still feeling slightly unwell, the guy with the horns thanks his classmate and listlessly refuses the offer. Fang Shishi asks if he can get up, and Tang Zheng briefly confirms. She smiles back at him brightly. Kaio Fei is wheezing with anger, or maybe black envy. His fist clenches involuntarily. The bully yells whether Tang Zheng is pretending to be weak in order to win Shisha's sympathy. It's obvious to everyone that he just wants to start communicating with her. All he can do is hide behind a woman's back. Shishi is the most beautiful girl of the Pengcheng school. Does this loser seriously think he's her equal? Hearing these stories, the blonde visibly saddens, and Tang Zheng sees it perfectly. Now he himself is very angry with Kaio Fei. After hitting him hard on the nose, the young man with horns claims that he himself is worthless. The bully falls on desks and chairs, which causes a mess. Fan Shishi is shocked by the actions of a classmate and anxiously looks at what will happen next. Kaio Fei sits holding his hand to his nose for a few moments, then looks at it and sees blood. He rises slowly, wiping his nose at the same time, and wheezes that Tang Zheng dared to hit him. Anger slowly simmers in him, while some of the class surround him in solidarity. The bully lands a powerful kick. The guy puts a block, but it doesn't really help, because he falls anyway. One by one, the blows of his peers are flying at him lying on the floor and covering his head, and Kaio Fei imperiously tells them to beat him with all their might, even kill him. The guy dared to hit him. Tang Zheng doesn't understand why this is happening to him. It all started after that accident. A young man was hit on the head on the way home from school right after the start of the school year. Since then, whenever he thinks about any question in the test, his head starts to hurt. Tang Zheng's grades plummeted. Close people began to shun him, and others began to rejoice at the guy's misfortune. The only blessing is that grandpa is still with him. The young man fondly remembers how his grandfather, who is half a head shorter than him, always took him by the shoulders and said that he believed in Tang Zheng. Suddenly he hears something terrible. Tang Zheng will not die today, but the bully will kill his grandfather, who will not die in any way. The eyes of the guy with horns flash with indignation. He rises abruptly, smashes desks, chairs, and classmates around him, and rushes screaming to the unsuspecting Kaio Fei. He stands and wipes his nose with a handkerchief that one girl gave him. A powerful hook hits a guy with a comb so that splashes of blood and saliva fly in all directions. Kaio Fei falls into a pile of desks and chairs again, and Tang Zheng, grabbing him by the collar of his shirt, sits astride him and hisses that if anyone should die here, it's him. One part of the class is excited. The other, on the contrary, is having fun at the sight of the spectacle. Suddenly, a teacher comes into the classroom, full and not very attractive, despite all efforts. She menacingly asks what they are doing here, and demands Tang Zheng to move away from his classmate. Then the woman takes him out into the corridor for an important conversation. All the other guys cheerfully climbed out of the window, because they are very interested in how it will end. Someone thinks that Tang Zheng is now a corpse. Another agrees, since he was caught by Wu Kuihong herself. A third comments on what a great show. Meanwhile, the teacher scolds the young man. All he can do now is pull the whole class down, steal money, and treat people badly. In general, he doesn't think what he's doing at all. Is all of the above what a student should do? However, Tang Zheng firmly objects that he did not steal the money, just Kaio Fei framed him. Wu Kuihong smiles mockingly and wonders why then the classmate framed the guy with horns, and not someone else. In her opinion, a good conscience is not afraid of slander. The bully is standing in the classroom at this time, all beaten up, and fervently admits to Shishi that he has no idea how that old witch can do with Tang Zheng. The excited girl goes to the teacher, assuring him that this is some kind of mistake and the young man did nothing. She proves her opinion by saying that they have all been studying together with Tang Zheng for 2 years, so everyone should know what kind of person he is. The woman reluctantly makes concessions and pretends to agree with Fan Shishi if only she would fall behind. However, Wu Kuihong immediately adds that she will take care of everything herself. Rubbing her hands, she kindly asks someone to take Kaio Fei to the medical room, and the others to return to their studies. Some girl barely drives the blonde back into the classroom, pushing in the back, and the bully makes a face at a classmate and leaves with a friend. Wu Kuihong waves to the students to go about their business. Finally, she turns to Tang Zhen, pokes her finger in his face and grumpily declares that he should not have come to class today. And since this is the case, let the young man with horns go and clean up in the basement of the laboratory. He's getting cold. Will he have to go to a haunted house? The teacher rudely cuts off so that the guy doesn't say stupid things and immediately goes there to clean up. Well, Tang Zheng, armed with a broom, dutifully goes to the fatal basement. At the same moment, Kaio Fei rubs his nose and is indignant that the young man with horns dared to remove it, because he is definitely a corpse. A friend, grinning, asks him not to get angry, especially if he didn't hear Tang Zhen was sent to a haunted house, and he, by the way, can get hurt there. The bully, puzzled, asks what kind of place it is. A nondescript guy tells how a girl was killed in that basement a few years ago, and they say that even her blood was sucked out. At the same time, the police did not say anything about this case, and nothing has happened in the last few years. That's why, as the comrade sums up, no one wants to go to that laboratory class. Kaio Fei concisely admits that he has not heard anything like this, which his friend is very surprised at. However, the bully sincerely believes that Wu Kuihong was a real beast this time, and this makes him smile. Meanwhile, Tang Zhen opens the basement door, and all the dust that was nearby cordially flies out at him. Going inside, he notes a rather obvious thing. It's very dirty here. In fact, the room is filled with cobwebs. A thick layer of dust has formed on furniture and things. Boxes are lying around randomly. And it's also dark here. The young man suddenly shudders. He freezes in fear. A voice speaks to him, rejoicing that the boy has finally come. Because of the fright, he loudly asks who it is, and then realizes with horror that he cannot move. The voice turns back to the boy with the words, how long he has been waiting for him. Tang Zheng is scared, but loudly demands the stranger not to hide, but to show himself, or the guy will catch him himself. Who does that voice belong to? A small blue-green light appears in the dark. He is just about to introduce himself when he is interrupted by someone else. A huge demon appears behind Tang Zheng. He is wearing a pale-colored kimono over his blue skin, long gray hair, mustache and beard are fluttering in the air, and 2 purple stripes run along his face. He asks if the young man wants to fix everything, but immediately imperiously declares that he has no right to think about such a thing. Apparently, the demon is invisible to Tang Zheng, since he, starting to get annoyed, actively sentences the stranger to appear faster. However, the one who was originally going to appear before the schoolboy also appears. A funny creature that looks like a red bun, with a wide mouth, large eyes and thick dark eyebrows curled in the form of clouds. He also has a lock of dark hair that turns into a tail, at the end of which that light glows. The creature angrily asks the demon what he wants. The man repeats the question and angrily shouts that he wants to kill Tang Zhen. The guy, having seen nothing, decides to turn around. The demon with a predatory smile warns him never to turn around. The round creature quickly figures out what the enemy means, and shouts so that the demon does not even think about doing it. The creature creates a murderous beam of energy and directs it at him. From such force it crumples, even in some places the wooden floor breaks. But Tang Zheng already notices this, and, frankly, his eyes are popping out of his head. He has no idea what's going on here at all. The round creature, almost crying, flies to the bro and asks him to run. Naturally, the young man does not see him, but something dark gets into his forehead, from which he does not have time to close his hands. It was a demon that reached Tang Zhen before the magical creature, blocking the way for him. The guy feels like he suddenly got worse. His head starts to hurt more than usual. He falls to his knees and grabs his head with his hands. It's as if some changes are taking place inside his brain, as if the nerve nodes are artificially increasing in size, and then they break. Tang Zheng screams in pain, tears stream down his cheeks, and, as a result, he loses consciousness. The demon laughs disgustingly. This kid is a loser and will soon disappear from the face of the earth. The round creature, looking at the schoolboy, tensely concludes that he seems to have died. This news only inflames the man more. Suddenly, flames begin to envelop him. While the demon is perplexed, the magical creature, dodging the steady streams of fire, informs that that child is not Xuanyang's body. This means that Tang Zheng is the deity of the 9 suns. The creature mockingly notes that since the demon started everything himself, then let him deal with the consequences himself. He only manages to shout in horror that he does not agree with this, until the flames completely engulfed him. The funny creature replies with a smile that it is God's will. Suddenly a new problem arises. Enchanted circles with hieroglyphs appear in the place where the demon was. The creature curses softly. Tang Zheng opens his eyes with difficulty, but immediately screams, jumps up in fright, repeatedly repeating the word demon. Someone reassuringly replies that he is not a demon, so the bro does not need to be afraid. The young man timidly asks who and where is the one he is talking to. The round creature replies that it is now in Tang Zhen's head, and presents itself as a 1,000-year-old man, a master with great power. He asks the guy not to worry, but he will be in his head for a while, promising to meet all expectations. The red creature enthusiastically announces that it should teach Tang Zhen cultivation and make him strong. Be that as it may, the student only indifferently refuses and allows the creature to dump. The magical creature angrily resents. The young man does not want to learn the skill from him. Tang Zhen confirms this, but he thinks to himself that the old man talks too much. Instead, he suggests that the creature simply cannot get out of it, and, what a surprise, hits the spot. The round creature looks like a child who has done something and has been caught doing it. The guy mockingly continues, saying that the old man still says that he has great strength, although he can't even get out of his head. These words hurt Kruglyashka's feelings and make him confused. How can someone like Tang Zheng say that he can't get out? He just wants to absorb the energy and then come back. The young man with horns displeased covers his ears. However, the old man quickly becomes serious and tells Tom about the dial of fate on his body, a pair of enchanted circles with hieroglyphs and strokes depicted on them. This dial of fate has accelerated due to changes in the body of the deity of the 9 suns, and the only one who can help the student is the red creature. Tang Zheng, with his arms crossed on his chest, does not really understand what the dial of fate is and which deity of the 9 suns he is talking about. The old man explains, the dial of fate is a vessel of life, and when its arrow points to midnight, the person dies. He admits that he does not know much, but he is sure that the body of the deity of the 9 suns has incredible power. The guy, as if parodying a new acquaintance, presents a different story. How a long time ago some strange hero with a hammer went to the monster. Before Tang Zheng has time to say anything else, the red creature screams indignantly so that he does not mumble. The old man, exhaling heavily, adds that the student should not take everything he heard for granted. Maybe his body is strong, but the opposite case is also quite possible. A guy can die from an overabundance of energy. That is, during the first 20 years of life, a child can die. Tang Zhen is no longer joking. He, of course, nervously clings to the words of the creature about the fact that the body of the deity is strong. And he will just turn 18 this year. Everything's going to be fine, isn't it? The red creature sternly asks if it looks like he is joking now. Hearing this, the young man becomes gloomy and quiet. The old man smiles faintly. He takes the opportunity and declares that Tang Zheng, fortunately, met him, and he has a way out, but the schoolboy will have to help the creature. The student begins to dig under the table. He asks if the creature is sure that that thing is right here. He confirms it. Finally, having found the object, Tang Zheng lets him know about the find, and the old man in response yells at him to grab it faster. That thing turned out to be a small paper scroll. The guy, waving his hand, reminds that now it's the creature's turn to help him. He smiles and assures that he always keeps his word, after which he opens his mouth wide. Tang Zheng watches in amazement as lightning bolts gather into a ball of energy in the roundel's mouth. In the end, the old man launches a bright beam of energy directly at the student. For a while, a bright aura envelops him. The young man realizes that some knowledge appears in his head. And even so much, even his head is spinning. Now his body is overflowing with power. Suddenly, the young man realizes that the red creature has quieted down. Did it really run away? But it physically couldn't do it. Besides, why did he need this scroll so badly? Tang Zheng first sits thoughtfully with the scroll in his hands, then decides to open it after all. Spreading the scroll to its full length, the guy catches himself thinking that he expected to see something like a heavenly script. But here is the most ordinary text. He begins to read, "The universe, the wheel has a way. The Tao, that is, the way of man, generates chaos. Such is life." While the young man is saying the text out loud, a light magic circle appears on the floor around him, and this energy spreads to his entire body. Tang Zhen looks at his hands, trying to figure out what they are. Finally, a magical creature appears. As soon as it opens its eyes, it is horrified by the sight of the guy and starts screaming how a child can have so much energy and what he did at all. Tang Zhen does not answer. He only says in amazement that this is madness. The red creature loudly shouts what a fool the young man is. He has not yet explained how to neutralize his side of yang, since the stronger the yang energy, the closer he is to death. Tang Zhen, of course, did not like such an address to him. he retorts, blaming the old man for everything, because after the guy helped the creature, it just disappeared. He got confused. And now the creature suddenly appears and says that he is one step closer to death. Tang Zheng, irritably poking his finger at the creature, asks how Pokeball thinks who should have helped him. The old man no less angrily explains that he was weak and fell into hibernation, simultaneously wondering what Pokeball is. He asks the student to tell him how he was able to improve so quickly. Some have been practicing for thousands of years. Tang Zheng does not understand what is meant by improvement, looking at the scroll. Didn't he just read some writing? The red creature intensely repeats the last words of the young man. Then the guy realizes what's going on. He, grinning maliciously, apologizes to the old Pokeball. You see, he has forgotten that it is already 1,000 years old, which means that he reads Chinese characters in the old-fashioned way, vertically and from right to left, and not in the modern way, as in Western writing, horizontally and from left to right. However, the magical creature understands that the matter is different. This is the will of heaven. The ancient scroll belongs to Tang Zheng. Suddenly, a breathless Fan Shishi appears in the doorway, and quickly tells the guy that the teacher is going to his house to tell Grandpa everything. She heard that a classmate was going to be expelled. Tang Zheng immediately jumps up, thanks the girl on the move, and runs away. The blonde shouts after him that she will ask her father to help him, so let the young man not worry about his grandfather. After a short time, Tang Zheng gets home. He opens the apartment door and calls his grandfather, but he is met only by silence and emptiness. In fact, at this time, his grandfather is in a landfill, surrounded by 3 guys armed with iron pipes. One of them, with purple hair and black glasses, hostilely declares that the damned old man knows where he is, in the territory of the tigers. He has to pay them. However, the grandfather, with unkempt gray hair and mustache, in a worn tracksuit, does not remember that this territory was their land, especially since he always collected trash here. For example, now he has a bag full of plastic bottles and metal jars in his hands. The second guy, dark-skinned and with a big fleece on his head, angrily growls what kind of nonsense he is talking, and asks if the old man is running into something, or how. Suddenly Grandpa screams, drops the bag and grabs his t-shirt. He starts screaming desperately that an old man is being beaten here. Then he starts spinning around his axis and repeating it a little viciously. The dark-skinned guy yells angrily that they haven't even touched him. And while the old man continues to shout that he is dying, he turns to his brother with the words that he has not met this man before. After that, seeing how the grandfather theatrically falls to the ground, he offers to really beat him. The third member of the group, a fat man licking an orange lollipop, does not express any emotions. The guy with glasses is confused by this situation, but he asks a hot-tempered friend not to panic, otherwise they may have problems. Anyway, this old man is not a werewolf, but a borrower. The dark-skinned guy is distracted by the fat man, threatening that if he licks him again, he will beat him. At this time, the guy with purple hair continues. The old man owes 200,000 yuan. The 3 of them collect debts for the tigers, and the grandfather owed them a lot. They were sent here to deal with him, and he lives here for himself, and even smiles every day. If they don't figure it out, then the tigers will send them to a sex change operation, after which they will become idols and will perform for the attack. But most importantly, they won't be able to get girls anymore. The guy with glasses adds to himself that in no case will he allow such a situation. The comrades didn't really listen to him anyway. Grabbing the fat man by the collar, the swarthy guy yells angrily that he told him not to lick, otherwise, it turns out, he wants to be beaten. At this time, the leader of the group is intensely arguing that he has not faced such a situation once in his 20+ years, but he cannot lose to that old man. That's why he picks up the phone, dials some daguo, asks if there is any other business, and after receiving an affirmative answer, happily confirms that he is already flying to fulfill it. The guy with purple hair turns his friends around, telling them to go faster. The guy with the fleece angrily growls that he will beat the old man next time, and the leader no less angrily orders him to close his mouth. Grandpa, lying on the ground, smiles triumphantly. The guy with glasses, taking out a cigarette, thinks, let these boobies go together next time, otherwise he does not want to become an idol. The dark-skinned guy at this time asks the brother with purple hair what they will do next, but he does not have time to answer. A can of Pepsi with force flies into his forehead, knocking a cigarette out of his mouth. The comrades anxiously pick up their brother. The guy with the fleece yells who did it, and promises to beat the culprit right now. It was Tang Zheng. He kicked the first jar he came across, and now he's shouting how the 3 of them could attack one grandfather. The swarthy man irritably answers who touched his grandfather at all. The old man himself, still lying on the ground, hears the voice of his grandson and is confused trying to figure out why he returned so early. The guy with the fleece hisses that this little guy really hit his brother, while he wheezes that he can't breathe. Now even the fat man was angry. A young man with horns runs up to his grandfather, excitedly asking how he is. He laughs weakly and assures that everything is fine. The schoolboy still wants to say something, but the old man tries to warn him about the danger. A swarthy guy approaches from behind and angrily swings an iron pipe. The red creature also tries to warn Tang Zhen, who manages to notice the pipe with one eye. There is a dull sound of impact. The student remains in the position he was in, and so does the grandfather. Tang Zhen wakes up at home in his bed. As soon as he sits down, a red creature appears next to him and, smiling, says that the guy has not only regained his strength, but also healed. In general, according to Krugliash, he needs to thank his grandfather, who just ran into the room with a hot steaming plate in his hands. In order not to let those scoundrels take Tang Zhen, Grandpa knelt down and begged them for a long time, holding out the last kopecks. The young man is made to worry a lot by the fact that he himself is to blame for everything that happened. He watches the old man running briskly from room to room. Having decided, the guy turns to Tian with a statement that he wants to become stronger. He will no longer allow others to suffer because of his weakness. So, it's time for dinner. The menu is sparse. Only rice, empty broth, and a small plate of boiled vegetables are on the table. Grandpa encourages Jen to eat more, but then unexpectedly adds that if he leaves in the future, he will have to be able to take good care of himself. The young man is frightened by these words, but outwardly only gets angry at the old man's words and asks if anything has happened. Fortunately, the old man is fine, according to him, and his words were a joke. He even bends his arms as if he wants to show biceps, which he does not have. Suddenly, a voice is heard outside the front door asking if Tang Zheng lives in this place. The guy gets up from the table, asking Grandpa not to be distracted from eating while he goes to check. He asks if his grandson's friends came so late, but the young man grimly replies that this is the class teacher. The old man jumps excitedly on the spot from this news. Why didn't the little one warn earlier that the teacher was coming? He instantly flies up to the door and opens it, presenting to Zhen's gaze a teacher holding a red umbrella in her hand. Grandfather hurriedly asks the woman to go inside. She came to them, despite such a downpour. Feeling uncomfortable, he adds that Zheng has achieved such results in his studies thanks to her help, after which he holds out his hand to greet her. Wu Kuihong notices this, but dismissively ignores him, saying that it's not worth thanking her, and in general she needs to tell the old man something else. The guy quickly cuts her off and aggressively offers to go out to talk to him. But the grandfather angrily stops him, insisting that he himself should not talk to the young man's teacher. The woman listlessly greets Tang Zhen, stating that he is already at home, which means she will say everything directly. The teacher, smiling mockingly, announces that the guy is lucky. He can come tomorrow, just not to the first grade, but to the 7th, although initially they were going to exclude him altogether, but Fan Shishi's father helped. The old man asks disappointed what Zheng has done, and the teacher begins to list casually. He is in last place according to estimates. Stole money, hit a classmate. If he is his grandfather, then, according to her, he should take care of the young man properly. And it is not so much the grades that are important, as his terrible character is important. She thinks that's enough. The guy gets covered to punch Wu Kuihong and starts shouting that he didn't steal any money. It's all lies. However, at this moment, grandfather calmly stops him with a single movement of his hand, as if asking him to leave the case to him. He seriously asks what the teacher means. This time, the woman decides not to beat around the bush, but to say directly that because of such a family as an old man, Tang Zheng grew up an outcast. Grandfather begins to shake. He becomes gloomy, then quietly apologizes that he doesn't know why she says that. However, after that, he grabs a broom and, swinging it at Wu Kuihong, angrily yells that he knows best what kind of grandson he has. She barely dodges the blow, hurriedly running away to the cries of her grandfather, so that she gets out of their house, since she is no longer welcome here. The teacher, frightened, finally concludes for herself that they are not only poor, but also barbarians. Do they think she'll want to come to them? Yes, even if they invite her, she will still never appear in the old man's house again. Still angry, Grandpa asks the guy not to be afraid of anything. His homeroom teacher is a bad person, and the next time she talks nonsense, he won't just let her go. Nevertheless, he gets back to normal pretty quickly and clarifies whether everything is so serious at school for a young man. Instead of answering, Zheng sincerely asks grandfather to believe that he will be the first according to the results of the entrance exams. At first the old man is surprised, but then he smiles contentedly and confirms that he believes in his grandson. Some time passes, now it's the middle of the night. Zheng sits on the bed and listens attentively to the magical creature. As for the power of yang, a guy can prolong his life by combining it with the power of yin. He clarifies what the creature means, and the spirit continues that the power of yin is not very different from the power of yang, but it is better to do it in a deserted place. However, the young man should not rush. With the current strength, he still will not succeed. The student is noticeably sad, because, it turns out, he will die anyway. The red creature hastily notes that he did not talk about only one method, that is, another, but in his case only luck will help them. The fact is that yang is male energy, yin is female energy, and since a young man has an overabundance of yang energy, he needs yin energy for balance. In general, Zheng needs a girl. The next day has come. The students are rushing to school in the morning. Tang Zheng is among them. As he walks, he humbly reasons that if he doesn't meet a woman with pure yin energy, he will die. The creature confirms this and adds that there are very few women in the world who have pure yin energy, so everything depends on luck. Someone gently touches Tang Zhen's shoulder. A breathless and flushed Fan Shishi, smiling, says that she called a classmate, but he did not hear, and even walks so fast. He is quietly surprised. The girl is interested in how the conversation went yesterday. Remembering Shishi's promise to help him and Wu Kuihong's words about him moving to the 7th grade, the young man politely thanks for the help. She shakes her head and lets Zheng know that she believes in him. She is very glad that he was not expelled. At these words, a happy smile lights up her face, and a sweet blush covers her cheeks. The guy is slightly embarrassed by the sight of Fan Shishi. So, Tang Zheng goes up to the floor where his new class is located. Enthusiastic conversations are heard from all sides. Someone warns that a new song will be released today, and another offers to go to the store after school and buy a CD. Someone else asks if friends have read the news on NBC. They confirm and admit that it was very funny. Another, remembering those news, begins to laugh, at the same time saying that it was especially funny about the man in the car, and so on, and so on, and so on. Under this hubbub, the young man passes the floor and reaches the right office, realizing that this is the legendary 7th grade straight from hell. As soon as he opens the door, a sponge for a board flies into his forehead. The whole class stops in confusion, while the sponge calmly falls to the floor and rolls away somewhere. The whole class instantly starts screaming in a kind of stupid way at the sight of the imperturbable Tang Zhen. He only discouragingly reminds himself that now these guys sitting in the mud with their desks placed at random are his classmates. The guy takes the last vacant desk in the row by the window. Getting comfortable, he finds himself thinking that he expected more from the guys here. But, obviously, the level of intelligence in this class by his standards leaves the best to do. Suddenly Zheng notices the eyes of his classmates on him. The looks seem heavy to him, even hostile. But the guys suddenly start laughing in chorus, not in an evil way, but in a kind way, which makes the young man's hair stand on end. While he is confused trying to guess what amused them so much, a chubby boy sitting on a desk in front turns to him. He has curly brown hair, and in his hands is a yellow Nintendo. He affably introduces himself as Feng Yun and advises the newcomer to move to another place. Zheng warily asks the reason, because no one seems to be sitting here. The fat man, keen on the game, wants to explain something, but the beginning of the lesson is announced, and he falls silent. Only Tang Zheng sits down on a chair, as, oh, a miracle. The whole office, previously full of garbage, begins to shine with cleanliness, and the students obediently sit at their desks and unanimously greet their teacher. The young man is amazed by the picture presented. Does the legendary 7th grade really want to study? And why has it suddenly become so clean here? The rhythmic clatter of heels is heard. When their owner appears on the threshold of the classroom, everyone as one is touched by what a beautiful teacher is today, not hesitating to say it out loud. She puts the teacher's magazine on the chair. She is a beautiful woman with a good figure. Despite her youth, she looks authoritative and commands respect by her appearance alone. She is probably quite a stoic person, judging by her cold demeanor. She has long green hair combed back and light blue eyes that go perfectly with her hair. She wears a standard uniform, a white shirt with a large neckline and a straight short skirt, as well as extravagant earrings in the form of blue tassels with yellow pom-poms at the base. So, the teacher summarizes what all the guys already know. Today a new student came to them, Tang Zheng. She notices a new student among the students. The guy looks at her bored. Then the woman decides not to make any introductory speeches and suggests going straight to classes. After that, a smiling fat man turns to the young man. He reverently asks if Liu Qingmei is really a beauty and proudly adds that they don't listen to anything except her lessons. It seems that his nose even stretched a little at these words. However, Tang Zheng sincerely wonders what there is to be proud of. He shudders at such thoughts. He sighs heavily, then picks up a pen. The guy in any case does not intend to give up because of that accident. He missed a lot, so, whether it's first grade or 7th grade, he will make up for everything. As it turned out, the class was not fully assembled. The back entrance door quietly opens, and a girl with pink hair pulled into 2 ponytails, in pink sneakers and a red short skirt crawls into the classroom as unobtrusively as possible on all fours. For classmates, she, of course, remained noticed. Therefore, the boys at the back of the desks, smiling, whisper to the girl to know that the newcomer has taken her place. She is angry and scared at the same time, puts her finger to her lips to silence them. Otherwise the teacher will catch her. An irritated girl with pink eyes successfully crawls to Tang Zhen's desk and whispers that this is her place. The young man is distracted by her for a second, and then, as if nothing had happened, returns back to the lesson. At first, the girl is angry, but at some point a great idea comes to her head, which makes her smile maliciously. The plan is simple: pinch the beginner's leg, which she does. From pain and surprise, Zheng screams at the whole class and jumps up from his seat, and the classmate tries in vain to make him be quieter. The only thing is that she quickly gets excited herself and starts screaming out loud. Why did the young man yell so much? Does he want her burned? And anyway, why the hell is he sitting in her place? Liu Qingmei had been writing something on a green chalkboard before, but she can no longer tolerate such insolence. Out of anger, the woman breaks the chalk in her hand in half. She turns to Yi Jingdeng, who angrily pokes her finger in Zhen's face and scolds her severely. The girl was late for class, and now she's making noise, so let her go to the playground and run 20 laps. Yi Jingdeng, nervous, wants to object something, but the teacher cuts her off to go before she gets angry. The girl confusedly agrees and heads for the exit. On the way, she turns around, showing the young man a fist, and angrily orders him to listen to her attentively. Then, lowering her voice, calls the place and time of the meeting, the roof, the next physical education lesson. Yi Jingdeng will be waiting for him there, and let him just try, according to her, not to come. The guy is a corpse. Tang Zheng does not react in any way to the trick of a classmate, while the fat man, turning to him, explains with concern that this is why he advised to move. Sister Yi Jingdeng, as he knows firsthand, is terrible in anger. In general, Zheng is, in fact, he's not up to the consequences at all right now. The red creature asks if the young man feels this power. He confirms it with concentration. The moment the girl pinched him, he felt a clear spark of energy inside himself. Tang Zheng was amazed. The arrow on his dial of fate turned back. The guy with the horns glances at Jingdeng. Ta now, indignant from the bottom of his heart, threatens another classmate not to laugh at her if he wants to live. Zheng knows one thing for sure: this girl has wonderful yin energy. After a while, Yi Jingdeng comes to the roof. With her arms crossed over her chest, she impatiently waits for the young man with horns. But every minute she gets more and more angry, realizing that he probably is not going to come. Finally, she can't stand it and starts screaming in anger, scaring away pigeons on the roof. Damn newbie. Zhen, being in a completely different place, sneezes loudly. The human body has 8 main channels. Each of them has its own Kai energy. The level of perfection is accordingly divided into breath, fundamentals, hunger, immortality, purification of yin, divine energy, and Mahayana, one of the 2 main directions in Buddhism. Each level is divided into 9 steps. Zheng sits in the lotus position and meditates with his hands joined in the shape of a diamond. It's like he's in the astral right now. A sparkling ball of energy, from which light streams radiate in all directions, protects the young man so that no one interferes with the lesson. Tian explains in a measured way that because of the energy of the 9 suns, the guy has 1 channel more than ordinary people. Although he had reached the first level of Kai purification with the scroll, Zheng still hadn't reached the level where spells could be perfected. For this reason, the magical creature is first going to teach that martial art called Heavenly Hand. The old man thinks for himself that this martial art may be of an entry level, but it is still powerful. In short, using only him, the young man will be quite capable of defeating the enemy. Zheng, having apparently finished concentrating his strength, exhales a thick stream of energy. After that, he gets up, takes as many tennis balls from the pantry basket as he can hold in his hands, and throws them all at once. Here the most interesting thing begins, using the technique of performing the Heavenly Hand. The guy collects all the balls while they are still in the air. This means that he does it with such speed and accuracy that, as a result, he collects all the flying balls to the last one, scattering dust clouds to the sides. Tian opens his mouth in shock. Zheng, not at all out of breath, turns to Tom and makes sure whether it was necessary to do so. He stands with his hands full of balls. Only one particularly restless falls out of the pile and falls to the floor with a slap. The old man is still shaken. Tang Zheng has an incredible learning ability. Now the 7th grade has a physical education lesson at a street stadium. Feng Yun, dressed in a white t-shirt and dark sports shorts, is sitting on the grass and playing Nintendo with a focused face. Suddenly, something hits him painfully on the back of his head, causing the fat man's eyes to almost pop out. He looks up from the game, rubs the back of his head, then angrily hisses that it actually hurt, and turns to the troublemaker. This is Yi Jingdang. She imperiously asks if Feng Yun knows where the newcomer has gone. He almost shits his pants out of fear, realizing that his sister is in front of him. He even drops the console. Sweating with excitement, the fat man clarifies whether she is referring to Tang Zhen, and immediately points his finger at a blue building not far away, saying that he went to the room for self-preparation. Yi Jingding only warns sternly, if the newcomer is not there, Feng Yun is a corpse. The girl goes to the building, and the guy loudly assures her, scratching his head, how he can lie to her. However, at the same time, he actively thinks that the girl is furious, so Tang Zhen should be more careful. Meanwhile, Tian sedately explains something to the young man with horns. In order to start practicing the spell, he needs to reach level 3 as soon as possible. Zheng makes a logical conclusion that since the old man says this, there is some way to quickly grow up to him. And yes, there is one, a schoolboy, according to the creature, just needs to practice in real combat. Only, as Zheng notes, while putting the balls back in the basket, the society of his time is very peaceful. It will be difficult to enter into a real fight with someone. At that moment, the front door opens with a bang. Someone strikes a crushing blow with his fist, but the young man manages to deviate. Yi Jingding angrily announces that she has found a newbie, then asks why he didn't come to the roof. The question, to be honest, puts Zhen at a dead end. He does not catch up with what kind of roof he is talking about. However, he quickly remembers that the girl told him to come to the roof, after which he gently punches his fist on his palm and admits that he forgot. Anger is slowly boiling in Yi Jingding. Has the newcomer forgotten? She abruptly grabs Tang Zhen's wrist and shoulder. He is distracted by the pure yin force that passes through her hands along his body. Only the next moment he suddenly realizes that the girl grabbed him for a reason. Turning around with force, she throws the dumbfounded young man over her shoulder and throws him to the floor, shouting that she will kill him. Zheng frantically tries to figure out why this girl is so strong. Tian casually comments that you should not underestimate her. She is a level 4 martial artist. Picking her finger in her ear, the girl asks with displeasure what he is mumbling there, and also adds that the guy dared to provoke her. Only now she notices that Tang Zhen has disappeared, and is surprised and indignant where he is going. The young man is startled, pinching with all his legs, seeing how Yi Jingdang is chasing him. The red creature, following him, is seriously furious. Why is he running away? This is a good way to improve strength. Such a case is rare. The student only has time to object that she has reached the 4th level, and he has just started his journey. Of course, a martial artist is no match for a cultivator, according to the magical creature, and the girl has been practicing kung fu for at least 10 years. Naturally, she is at this stage stronger than a guy who has been self-improving for just a day. Zheng sweeps past Feng Yun. A gust of wind warps his hairstyle, attracting attention. Suddenly, the young man with horns realizes that he will not be able to escape, so he stops abruptly. A running classmate sees it. Tang Zhen turns to Yi Jingdang with a straight face. Without stopping for a second, the girl raises her hand to strike, asking if the newcomer wanted to escape, and if so, let him go to hell. A powerful blow raises clouds of dust around the two. The young man holds a reception. He must fight. Feng Yun stares at the frozen opponents with all his eyes, looking up from the console, and not understanding what is happening. Yi Jingdang is very surprised by what he sees in front of him now. Tang Zheng parried her blow using the heavenly hand. Meanwhile, Kaio Fei and his nondescript boyfriend enter their classroom. A friend tells the bully that Yi Jingdang and Tang Zheng from the 7th grade are fighting at the stadium. He asks about Yi, is this the girl who fights well? A friend confirms and cheerfully offers to go and see how that little one will die. Fan Shishi, who is sitting at her desk, hears all this while she is scribbling something in her notebook with a pen. She's worried that Tang Zhen is in trouble again. All the students ask each other to be faster, because Yi Jingdang is fighting at the stadium, and her opponent is like Tang Zheng from the 7th grade. The girl, still in the same attacking pose, calculates something in her mind, then grabs the guy by the sleeve of his t-shirt. Smiling maliciously, she jumps up high while holding a classmate by the t-shirt, puts her foot in for a kick and aims at his head. However, she never reaches Zheng because he blocks the blow with his hand. The thought involuntarily flashes through his mind that this leg strength reminds him of something. Yi Jingding makes a tactical retreat, making the sun go back, and then admits that she did not expect anything like this from the young man, did not expect that he would turn out to be a warrior. Tang Zhengwash mentally asks the spirit what she means by talking about him as a warrior. Tian, wearing large round glasses, starts explaining. The girl means that the young man is just a warrior of simple martial arts, so there is nothing to worry about. Although, like a cultivator, Yi Jingding has her own way, but her strength still cannot be compared with the power of cultivators. Zhen, however, is more concerned about why the creature put on glasses, but this does not prevent him from continuing the monologue. So, the strength that, according to Tian, warriors develop through exercises is called inner strength. It is very different from the Kai energy cultivators receive from heaven and earth. The system of warriors is the same as that of cultivators, only divided into 7 levels. Body hardening, routine, natural qualities, mentor, warrior, emperor, god. There are 9 steps in each level, and that girl, as far as the old man understood, is now at the 4th stage of purification. The cultivator has the 4th stage of Kai purification more powerful, but Tang Zheng is now at the 1st stage, so he lags behind his classmate, inferior in strength. The girl pulls the guy out of his thoughts, arrogantly wondering if he still wants to use the heavenly hand martial art technique. But the other thing is bad in this situation. The young man could not even notice when and how she was behind his back. That is, in the blind spot, now creating a great threat. Zheng is stunned as Yi Jingding jumps up again and puts his foot up for a powerful attack. Mocking, she offers a bet: if the guy can touch her, he won, and if he loses, he will leave the 7th grade. At this moment, the girl slaps a classmate in the face with such force that he, without having time to do anything, flies off a few meters, plowing the ground with himself. Meanwhile, a crowd of spectators has already gathered around the place of the fight. It's fun for everyone to watch how strong Yi Jingdang is beating a beginner. Someone even cheers for her, and another admiringly compares the girl to a monster. There is also Fan Shishi among them, but she stands in the very back rows, because she can't see anything behind the heads of tall guys. The girl, who is tired of looking at the backs of the guys, tries to squeeze forward and accidentally touches someone. The guy with the slicked back hair asks with displeasure that she is pushing, and turns around. Fan Shishi sincerely apologizes, while the stranger is busy looking at her. What a cutie she is. A blush covers his cheeks. He slyly asks if the girl wants to watch the fight. When the girl actively nodded in response, the guy, pulling out of nowhere a bouquet of roses, offers the following condition: if he helps her squeeze through, then she will have to agree to his request, namely to become his girlfriend. To his great regret, Fan Shishi did not even listen to the rest. Now she is trying to squeeze in between some other guys, without ceasing to apologize and drive them into a blush. She succeeds. Yes, she almost falls, but now she is standing in the front rows, where Kaio Fei is also standing with a friend. Both notice Fan Shishi. The bully quietly comments that he does not remember that she was interested in fights. The girl can finally assess the situation. Tang Zheng is lying motionless on the ground next to Feng Yun, who is so shocked that he does not think to leave. Fan Shishi, without noticing it, leans forward, because she really wants to help the young man with horns. However, someone grabs her hand. Kaio Fei seriously tells the girl not to go to the battlefield. She still won't be able to help. She wants to object. In the end, Shishi gathers his strength, watching the guy with the horns tremble in pain, and firmly objects. There's no way she's going to stand by, as she can't leave Tang Zhen in the lurch. Zheng himself, all scratched, continues to lie. Yi Jingdang is sure that this is the end, so she turns to the exit, exhaling in disappointment that she had hoped for something more interesting. But the young man still rises heavily to his feet, shaking himself slightly. The girl watches him in amazement, thinking that from such a strong blow, only abrasions remained on his body. If so, what is his level? Suddenly, a wave of rage mixed with fear overwhelms Yi Jingdang. Is it possible that the guy's level is higher than hers? However, he uses an entry-level martial art, so it's hard for her to guess what Tang Zhen's real strength is. Flash thoughts that he expects to win with the simplest arts, most likely considering himself very experienced, make the girl angry. and the young man with horns, rubbing his cheek, at this moment compares the strength of Yi Jingdang with the same Kaio Fei, and comes to the conclusion that she is certainly on another level. In any case, the girl does not waste time and, approaching the guy, is preparing to attack again. She jumps in, puts her foot in, bringing down another blow. Everyone, Feng Yun, Fan Shishi, even Kaio Fei, freezes in tense anticipation. The girl, however, does not notice that the attack falls on the ground, on an empty place. Tang Zheng suddenly comes in from the rear, which Yi Jingdang sees at the very last moment, and hits her on the neck, clasping her hands in a lock. Before losing consciousness, the girl realizes that the classmate used her own technique. Only when did he learn it? Be that as it may, Yi Jingdang finally gets an answer from Jen that this is a secret. She falls limply. The crowd is shocked, and Feng Yun has shrunk from fright altogether. Tian, who silently watched the fight, knows that in fact that technique is not a girl's technique. Tang Zheng simply used Kai energy to strengthen his legs, thereby making them stronger and, accordingly, faster. The same with his hands. Well, Yi Jingdang lost. The guy, it turns out, thinks well in battle. A few hours pass, the day is tending to night. The young man, who now has a large plaster stuck on his cheek, enters the apartment, quietly announcing that he has returned. At first he is puzzled by the fact that the lights are completely turned off, but then he finds his grandfather with his eyes. Zheng gets scared when he realizes that Tom has become ill. The old man, sitting on the floor, desperately clings to his shirt and tries to catch his breath, but it doesn't really work out. A little girl with medium-length hair and a sundress is ready to cry. She clings to a black woman's skirt while watching some people collect things. One takes off dresses, the other reaches for a stuffed panda. The girl begins to sob and tries to approach them, but the adult, whose skirt she was holding, blocks her way with his hand. The child vaguely sees all sorts of things scattered on the floor, sees people in black suits and glasses standing with boxes filled to the brim with something. A man in a strict classic suit is talking to one of them. At one point, he turns to the girl, his wrinkled face, his purple eyes express boundless sadness. Yi Jingdang wakes up in a cold sweat. She's in the medical room right now, although she doesn't really care. The girl sits up in bed confused and touches her head, feeling a little discomfort. Damn it, she dreamed about that old man again. It really bothers her. Only now does Yi Jingdang notice Feng Yun sitting next to the bed. The guy is noticeably embarrassed, simultaneously peeling the apple from the peel, but he is glad that his sister has finally woken up. A girl without any aggression asks a plump man what she is doing in the medical room. He answers with a question whether she forgot that she lost to the newcomer, and then immediately enthusiastically tells how his brother carried Yi Jingdang here after the fight. She crumples the blanket in her palm. The girl's face darkens. She does not ask in a friendly way to repeat what he said. Feng Yun is finally scared when she asks when Tang Zheng managed to become his brother. Suddenly, a red phone with a picture of a frog starts ringing. Yi Jingding picks up the phone, asking Feng Zai how things are going, and in response receives indignant shouts. Does the girl really not care if her mother is alive or not? She's actually in the hospital right now, so let her hurry up. Yi Jingding just pushes the noisy phone away from his ear and makes a dissatisfied tusk. At the same time, Fan Shishi comes to Tang Zhen's house because he wants to know how he feels now. The door to the apartment is open, and the girl hesitantly enters, apologizing for the intrusion. She immediately notices a guy who is desperately calling Grandpa. Zheng, also noticing a classmate, frantically asks to call an ambulance. Seeing that Fang Shishi is being stupid, he unconsciously raises his voice, asking to do it as quickly as possible. She immediately comes to her senses, grabs the phone, dialing a number, after which the young man mentally asks his grandfather to be patient a little more. The ambulance finally picks up all three of them and rushes along the highway to the hospital with flashing lights and a siren on. One doctor attaches fixators to the old man's chest to collect coordinates. The second holds a dropper. The girl is worried about both her grandfather and Tang Zhen. He looks very depressed, although this is not surprising. The ambulance arrives at the hospital when it is already dusk. At the same moment, Yi Jingding leaves the ward with the words that she was right. Nothing terrible happened to Feng Zai. This is the most common cold. Do not worry. Suddenly, a group of doctors hurriedly carrying a gurney with an old man bursts into the corridor and loudly asks everyone present to give way. And they constantly repeat this. They rush past Yi Jingding. She draws attention to the fact that two guys, who, judging by their uniforms, are from her school, are running behind the gurney. Only now does the girl realize that one of them is Tang Zheng, who is very excited about something. A hand grabs her shoulder. Once the girl started talking about school, it means, according to the person, she is familiar with those two. Anyway, Yi Jingdeng, turning to a tall red-haired woman in a white fur coat, expresses doubts as he does not want to answer directly. At this time, being in the ward, the doctor wearily removes the mask from his face and reassures the young man that while the old man's life is not in danger, but his condition is unstable. Zheng asks what he wants to say by this. Fan Shishi also listens attentively. Then the doctor, picking up a tablet with data about the patient, explains that he has clearly had heart problems for a long time, which are associated with age, and the risk of surgery is too high. With each new word, the guy's eyes widen more and more. The doctor finishes off Tang Zhen by saying that he cannot guarantee the full recovery of an elderly person. Well, at least the old man will be hospitalized by the doctor's decision to monitor the condition. The man hands the student a tablet, asks him to sign, then go downstairs and pay the bill if there are no objections. Tang Zheng somewhat mechanically takes the papers from him, and this does not escape Shisha's attention. The girl starts briskly looking for a purse in her backpack, saying that she just has money with her. However, the young man stops her. He has bothered the girl again, but he will take care of the rest himself. She, smiling, objects that it does not give her any trouble if it is about Tang Zheng. That's just she did not expect the guy to start yelling at her. Did she not understand what he said to her? He doesn't need her help. Fan Shishi freezes in indecision, continuing to smile stupidly. The young man, calming down and lowering his tone to normal, admits that he does not know why she treats him so well, but he is still very grateful for everything. Perhaps it's because, according to Tang Zheng, wealthy people sometimes feel sorry for people like him, but he's had enough. In the end, the guy asks the girl to leave the room. Of course, she doesn't just leave. Quickly writing down her number on a piece of paper, she puts it on the bedside table and asks him to call if he needs something. The young man is silent in response, only carefully adjusts the grandfather's blanket. Shishi stares at Tom's back for a few more seconds and walks away, hanging his head. Tian appears out of nowhere and caustically comments that Zheng does not know how to handle girls. The guy calmly reprimands that the creature should not appear at such a time just to tease him. It's better to tell him if there is any way to save Grandpa. Exhaling heavily, the spirit again notices that the student's attitude to anything is really annoying, and therefore it is not surprising that no girl likes him. Zheng rudely demands that he shut up. Then Tian asks if he has ever heard of a longevity pill that can extend a person's life by 10 years. The young man is amazed at what he has heard. How can this be? He does not answer the question, but brings to the attention that the old man does not have long to live, so the magical creature can teach the young man to create this pill. Full of determination, Zheng, jumping up from his chair, offers to go and do it right away. The spirit asks not to hurry. The battle with Yi Jingdang was wonderful. He absorbed a lot of pure yin energy. But this is not enough, because to create a pill, the guy needs to find 3 Kai purification products and a heavenly flower. The student's face shows that he is listening intently, but does not understand anything. The round creature sedately explains that the heavenly flower usually grows on top of a cliff, and the old man's body can last another month or so. Therefore, if Zheng can improve soon, he will save Grandpa. Without thinking twice, the young man rushes out of the ward, reasoning on the move that there is a high mountain 2,000 meters high on the outskirts of Changheng. The city is just named after her. He'll probably be able to find the flower there. At the very least, Zheng should try. Maybe he will still have time. The spirit follows him on his heels and manages to irritably resent that he did not listen to him to the end. Night falls, the lights turn off in the wards. The old man is lying unconscious on the bed, and opposite him is another patient. Instead of sleeping, a guy with purple hair, whose head is bandaged, hides under a blanket. He calls a friend and demands to come to the hospital quickly and pick him up. It seems to him that a person with neurosis is lying here, talking to himself. A friend from the other end of the wire, who probably expected something like this, asks with displeasure if he is just trying to scare him. It's dark outside, even if the whole city is lit up. Yi Jingding is just about to get into the car when Tang Zheng flies past her. It takes her a couple of moments to make sure it's him. Turning to Feng Zai, the girl asks not to wait for her, she will go home later. The woman angrily shouts after her, is the little pot-bellied going to come back late again? But Yi Jingdang is already far away. A lone bus brings a young man to Changheng Mountain. He has only one thing on his mind. Don't let Grandpa worry, because he will definitely create that pill. Almost simultaneously with Jin, a taxi drops off a girl a little further away. She still doesn't understand why the guy came here late at night. Starting to tremble, the girl notes for herself that here you can naturally die from the cold. Nevertheless, the young man goes into the forest, despite the warning sign that it is dangerous here because entry is prohibited. Some representatives of the nocturnal fauna willy-nilly get in the way, but do not frighten and in no way stop Jen. On the contrary, fireflies, albeit weakly, illuminate the path, as does the moon. The guy bravely climbs the mountains, descends into the lowlands, overcomes the thickets. Eventually, he reaches the highest point of Mount Chengheng, a high cliff that drops steeply down. From here, the student has a picturesque view of the night city, although he is not interested in it. He just hopes to find that flower here. The spirit hastens to warn that the heavenly flower was a rarity 1,000 years ago. There is no guarantee that they will find it here and now. At this time, Yi Jingding is hiding behind the trees, intensely thinking that something is wrong here. Otherwise Tang Zheng would not have run so far. Suddenly, the girl's sensitive hearing catches the crunch of a branch behind. She turns around to check the situation, as she is abruptly attacked by some man, smiling rapaciously. He has long lilac hair, wears a black elastic suit, and his weapon is a blade attached to his wrist. The girl doesn't really understand what is happening, but she is thrown aside by Zhen. When she finally lands, she sees a deep bleeding scratch on her shoulder. However, the guy notices her and sincerely wonders why Yi Jingdang is here. Holding the wound with her hand, she awkwardly asks if he will believe her if she says that she was walking in the woods after dinner. Well, it's obvious to everyone that the girl is lying, but this pales before the fact that a fight is coming. A stranger aggressively cuts the first bush in half, approaching the guys. According to the man, as expected from the daughter of the Yi family, the schoolgirl very cleverly dodged. She demands to know who he is and why he attacked her. The stranger, madly smiling and flashing his eyes, answers only the last question. He attacked her because she is Yi Jingdang. The killer rushes to the girl. Tang Zheng is ready to rush to protect her, but the spirit stops her in time, asking her not to hurry. Tian reports that the man has improved 6 levels, so the guy simply cannot resist him now. The young man mentally repeats the figure he has heard. The spirit says correctly, if he hurries, he will lose. Moreover, Yi Jingding has the 4th level, and Zhen has only the 1st. And, although cultivators are stronger than warriors, at the moment the difference in strength is still too great. On the other hand, if the young man leaves everything as it is, then the classmate is finished. Watching how she dodges the man's blows, the guy feverishly thinks about what he can do in this situation. And, without noticing it, persuades himself to think faster. Suddenly, Tang Zhen calls out to Yi Jingdang and angrily asks if he is going to die here. At the same second, an abrasion appears on her cheek from an accurate blade strike. Opponents bounce in different directions. Bearing his mouth with a half-witted smile, the killer seems to confirm to himself that Jingdang is definitely the daughter of the Yi family. He promises that if she is an obedient girl, he will kill her quickly and painlessly. But she unceremoniously refuses and advises not to dream in vain. Members of the Yi family never give up, even in the face of death. Unfortunately, her words are, in fact, meaningless. She missed the moment when the stranger shortened the distance between them so much that now the girl has no way to dodge the blade that looms in front of her pupil. It was too fast. Yi Jingding closes his eyes. Resigned to her fate, she silently says goodbye to Dad and Feng Zai. But the attack never reaches her. Tang Zhen, with a jacket wrapped around his arm, uses the heavenly hand, throwing the confused enemy back. The girl, seeing the young man's broad back, is no less amazed. He seriously declares that even though she is too noisy, she does not deserve to die. The killer is not particularly upset by this turn of events. He laughs because he was too focused on Yi Jingdang and completely forgot that they are not alone here. Finally, the stranger arrogantly asks who the young man is. Meanwhile, somewhere in the city there is a 2-story house in which only one window is lit. This is Fan Shishi's room. She is sitting at a table with a photo in her hands, which depicts little Shishi, Zhang and Fei at the graduation ceremony for the Mathematical Olympiad. The 3 of them are standing on a pedestal. Tang Zheng stands in the first place in confusion. Fan Shishi, smiling brightly, is on the second, and Kaio Fei, angrily looking at the winner, is on the third. A slight blush covers the girl's cheeks when she looks at the photo. How can she help the young man? He himself is talking to the killer at this time, even if the guy does not want to admit it, but Yi Jingdang is his classmate. She, of course, immediately begins to resent what the guy is saying at all, but the stranger, giggling, sarcastically admits that the children just made him laugh. In fact, he does not care deeply whether they are classmates or friends, none of them will survive. The man rushes towards the duo again, swinging his blade. Zheng closes with a wrapped hand, which amuses the man. Does he seriously think that this will be able to stop his attack? 3 cuts in the shape of a triangle, the sweaters were gone. The man anticipates how he deals with those two and looks through the scraps of fabric. But to his great surprise, the guys were not there. But a second later, Jingdang and Zheng synchronously attack the killer from the rear. The first uses martial arts, the second uses the heavenly hand. There is a powerful explosion. Let's be honest, this attack was planned in advance. When the young man defended his classmate for the first time, he quietly asked if she could still fight, and if so, let her listen to his plan. The guy confidently stated that they have a chance to defeat the enemy. His words somewhat confused the girl, but she obviously agreed. Now Yi Jingdeng, standing shoulder to shoulder with Zhen, solemnly announces that the students from the 7th grade are quite smart. Yi Jingdeng complacently declares that although the man's level is higher than hers, but he will not be able to kill her so easily. The next moment, she enters her repertoire again. That is, she starts angrily shouting at Tang Zhen, whether he is listening to her at all, while the guy, thoughtfully, looks at the place of the explosion. Tian notices that the bro's pot cooks well, while the young man says out loud that the battle is not over yet. The girl looks at him in bewilderment, then at the place that so attracted the attention of a classmate. The smoke has not completely dissipated yet, but the guys already hear the mocking voice of the killer. He did not expect that there would be another warrior here. According to him, it is becoming more and more interesting, since one has the 4th level, and the other uses the heavenly hand technique. The man thinks it's very stupid to think that the two of them can defeat him. He starts attacking again. The trajectory of its movement is like a broken line, which seems to be traceable. However, it comes as a surprise to both the young man and Yi Jingding that the killer appears right in front of their noses in the blink of an eye. The stranger, having something in mind, smiles dangerously. None of the guys have time to understand anything, as he grabs Zhen by the throat and pierces through his stomach with his blade. And the man warned that they would both die, so let them get his devil's blow. The earth is gradually sprinkled. The girl stares blankly at the weapon that entered the classmate for a few seconds. When the realization finally reaches Yi Jingdang, she is horrified, clings to the man's hand with which he grabbed the guy by the neck, and desperately screams if she is his target. The killer just giggles in response. Then the girl even more insistently demands to remove her hand from Tang Zhen. Oddly enough, her words have an effect on the stranger. He throws the exhausted guy aside, showing that he is no longer interested in him. Only now he is completely switching all his attention to Yi Jingdang, and his request not to worry about the fact that they have already lost does not inspire much hope, considering how he smiles. Quickly realizing what he wants, the girl increases the distance between them, bouncing a couple of meters back, closer to the cliff. She is focused on her opponent again, and for good reason. The killer is rushing towards her with lightning speed. Fortunately, Yi Jingding notices the blade thrust forward at the last moment, so he successfully deflects. Because of this, the man almost falls, but deftly grabs the schoolgirl by the leg and prepares to throw her into the thicket. However, before that, smiling arrogantly, he kindly points out that if they wanted to attack him, they should have done it earlier. So, he throws Yi Jingding into the thicket of the forest. While she is flying, touching every tree, collecting branches with leaves and hiding from them with her hands, the killer catches up with the girl, and this makes her frown. He puts the blade forward. The stranger is ready to repeat with what he did with the guy. But something goes wrong. Yi Jingding lands, unharmed, and then sees bright sparks gathering into bright ribbons. It is they who hold the weapon of the dumbfounded stranger. He turns back in anger. This is the work of Tang Zhen, who stands and covers his pierced stomach in an attempt to somehow stop the bleeding. The girl is genuinely shocked, because he is seriously injured. You can say he can barely stand on his feet, but at the same time uses the heavenly hand. That's just an unusual heavenly hand, as energy flows surround the entire body of the young man, and, lengthening, detain the enemy. Zheng is now putting his palm forward to use an improved martial art called Heavenly Hand Transformation. A clot of bright energy gathers in his palm, and he abruptly squeezes it like the strings of a puppeteer. The streams on the killer's hand respectively squeeze his blade, but with such force that it literally falls apart into pieces. The killer does not catch up with what has just happened to his weapon. Looking at the empty hand, the knife just suddenly disappeared. In any case, he quickly adapts to the current situation, starting to get angry at the guy. As soon as the stranger turns to him, he immediately gets a heavenly hand on his face. However, this does not weaken him much. He grabs Tang Zhen by the hand, saying that he has already accepted defeat, and, roughly grabbing his head, forcefully slams the young man's face into the ground. Yi Jingdang is so confused that she is speechless. The next moment, the classmate jumps to his feet again, wants to hit the man, but he manages to dodge. A frank one-goal game begins. The killer, enraged, hits the young man in the wounded place and in no way limits himself to this, continuing to attack either with his foot on the jaw, then with his hand on the face, or somehow else. When Tang Zheng finally loses consciousness, Yi Jingding regains consciousness and is exposed to another blow. The fist hits her in the face, leaving a bruise. The girl demands the man not to forget that his goal is her. He only laughs at her antics, which, in his opinion, is stupid. The schoolgirl herself is in a hurry to die. Suddenly the wind rises, the whirring of helicopter blades is heard. The cabin door is open, and two people are standing on its edge, a man and a woman. The killer and Yi Jingding raise their heads at the same time. But the second one also opens her mouth in surprise. Angry man and woman, shouting over the helicopter, threaten in unison that the stranger should not dare to harm their daughter, otherwise they will never forgive him. Only now does the girl realize that it's Dad and Feng Zai who have come for her. The killer recognizes them, too. Yi Tianlei, Feng Zai, Yi Jingding are all here now. In the end, the helicopter descends to the ground. The newcomers get off it and approach the two. The girl asks skeptically how they knew she was here. Her dad tells in detail how everything happened. Yi Jingding left her phone in the car. Her mom went to pick her up to give it to her, and when she saw her daughter climbing the mountain, she called him and told him to come here. And he also exaggerates how exactly the dialogue took place. A woman called Yi Tianlei and almost screamed into the phone that his daughter ran up the mountain and did not take her phone with her. So he urgently needs to come, she will send him the coordinates. Feng Zai also complains that the girl is getting more and more naughty. In any case, this is not new to Yi Jingdang. Suddenly, the killer grabs her by the neck, declaring that now is not the time for family chatter. Maybe he looks unperturbed, but he nervously thinks to himself that, whether it's Yi Tianlei or Feng Zai, even with one of them, he will not be able to cope with his abilities. The stranger is sure that the guy is to blame for everything, because he forced him to spend so much time on a useless fight. The killer clearly understands that he simply needs to escape from here. Suddenly he realizes that a middle-aged man in a classic suit has disappeared somewhere. His eyes widen in amazement when he sees an empty seat next to a woman. From the side, the question sounds where he is looking. The stranger's eyes completely pop out of their sockets when he notices Tianlei a centimeter away. Folding his hands with a special technique, the man sends his opponent into a long flight with one blow of his elbow. Trees break under the pressure of the body until it crashes into one particularly hard tree, although the stranger doesn't care anymore. He lost consciousness long before that. Yi Tianlei, frowning, displeased, dusts off his hands, then turns to his daughter. Yi Jingding decides to calmly point out that she could handle such a brat herself. Only she doesn't notice how the woman behind her angrily raises her hand, after which she punches the back of the girl's head with her fist. A heated argument ensues between them. The daughter shouts that she is Feng Zai's child, so why does she beat her every time? The woman also shouts that she always makes her worry. Then the girl, still screaming, asks how such a mother can have a child at all, which greatly angers the woman, who now shouts that she is not her mother, and let the girl go to the one she likes. That woman will be her mother. Now Yi Jingding irritably recalls that because of poor academic performance, Feng Zai slapped her every time, and she angrily replies that she needed punishment, otherwise how else would she encourage her daughter to study? Here the head of the family intervenes in the conflict, asking the mother and daughter to stop making noise and confusion. Both pay all their attention to him, making eyes at him, calling him dear or daddy. They synchronously ask to tell one of them that it's not her fault. This situation takes Tianlei by surprise, even a little frightening. In general, he can't calm them down, on the contrary, they only get angrier. The girl shouts that Feng Zai does not cheat, and the woman angrily declares that her daughter always pretends to be nice to her father. Here a man catches the eye of a guy lying motionless. He perplexedly asks Yi Jing who it is, and states that the young man is seriously injured. Only at this moment does the girl remember poor Tang Zheng. The helicopter rises into the air. Feng Zai slyly asks his daughter if Tang Zheng is her boyfriend, which makes her blush. Yi Jingding gets angry and hastily replies that this is not the case. After some time, the young man is brought to the place and placed in a luxurious white bed, next to which there is now an IV drip. In fact, he is not completely unconscious, the guy is in the astral. In front of him stands his dial of fate, according to which Tian determines that Zheng will not live to be 20 if he does not meet a person with pure yin energy, like Yi Jingdang. He gloomily mutters words about pure yin, and then wakes up. The first thing the young man sees in front of him is a classmate and doctors. The girl is sitting on a chair, picking at her ear with her finger, and asks the doctor what the guy is babbling about. The doctor can't say for sure, maybe something about lips. Zhang weakly turns his head in their direction, and the girl, noticing this, exclaims joyfully that he has woken up. She leans on the bed, which makes the classmate very scared. After recovering a little, he remembers how Yi Jingdang looked in a dream, believing that the image of a small pink dog suits her better. The spirit retorts in response that Zhang fainted, and the girl's parents saved him, although they could have left him to die. For once, a young man has the opportunity to assess the situation. Expensive vases on the table, a gorgeous view of the city, a white spacious room, and many doctors who are asked to leave. Yi Jingding childishly begs Zhen to tell who taught him martial arts, but he unceremoniously refuses to tell her anything. At this moment, the butler comes up and announces to Mr. Tang Zhen that clean clothes have been brought for him. The girl does not let up, asking what the guy was doing on Changheng, but he only declares that he is going to change clothes, so it's time for her to go out. Jingding goes into a shout, demanding to answer her question first, and then she will leave. They sit in silence for a while, glaring at each other. Tang Zheng decides to take extreme measures. He takes off his blanket, letting the girl see white shorts, the only piece of clothing he is currently wearing. She shyly covers her eyes with her hands, screams that the guy is a pervert, and runs away, slamming the door loudly. While he is putting on his shirt, the magical creature, smiling contentedly, teases him, also calling him a pervert. He gets it accordingly, namely, crashes his face into the glass, and not without the help of Zhen. Now, dressed and well-groomed, the student leaves the room and meets Yi Jingdang standing in the corridor. She informs him that her parents want to see a classmate. Naturally, he strains, but, exhaling, calmly asks where to go. After a while, he comes to a sparkling hall, furnished with expensive furniture. The first one he comes across is Feng Zai, who gently takes Tang Zhen by the hands, smiling, admits that he is very cute, and then thanks him for saving his daughter. The girl coldly mutters that he didn't really save her, but no one pays attention to it. The woman offers Zhen to go and sit down. She will bring them something to drink. Now it's the turn of the head of the family. He is sitting on the sofa with his hands folded in a lock and his chin resting on them. There is an untouched tea in front of him. Yi Tianlei turns to the newcomer with the question whether his name is really Tang Zhen. He confirms. Suddenly, the man says that he has conducted some kind of investigation, and declares the following. The young man has never studied martial arts. He is confused and does not yet know how to get out of this situation. The head of the family at this time, making a suspicious face, continues to press. The young man and his daughter resisted the 6th level martial arts master, and the man hopes that Zhang will be able to explain how this became possible. Yi Jingdang, confused and displeased at the same time, turns to her father while the spirit notices, giggling, that the boy has big problems. At this moment, the girl is reproaching her father for how he can do this to a guy who is her classmate, and who saved her, only she again does not notice how her mother is frowning behind her. The young man understands perfectly well that he still needs a classmate to survive, which means that he definitely needs to answer something. So, Tang Zheng decides to tell Yi Tianlei everything, as the father of a classmate. As the man said, he had never studied martial arts before, but recently asked to be apprenticed to a master. The student wants to continue, but the whole family is shocked and repeats the word recently. Seizing him by the hand, Yi Jingding asks if he is a monster. In such a short time, it is impossible to advance so far. Feng Zai asks Zhen with a smile if he could introduce them to his teacher, as she really wants to thank him. Glancing at the invisible Tian, the guy allegedly admits that his tomato-like master is not very convincing. The spirit irritably asks the boy what is wrong. It's good that Zhang manages to suppress a laugh and no one notices. Nevertheless, he tells the family with a smile that the teacher is free, like wild cranes, and wanders around the world all the time, because at the moment the young man does not know his location. This story, invented in a few seconds, amazes the magical creature.